What's up, ladies and germs? You know who it is. You know where we are. It's Thanksgiving Eve. This used to be like the biggest night of the year when we were young. We'd go out, we'd hang out, we'd party, sleep till whenever we could the next day, and get up and eat freaking turkey, right? I'm a little bit older. We're not doing it anymore. We're going live. We're talking comics. We're talking whatever. But I gotta warn you guys right now, if nobody jumps on this stream with me, or we don't get anybody in the comments at least that want to talk about comics, collectibles, anything out there, then I'm just gonna bag this thing after about 20 minutes. All right. So how many people out there are still going out and doing things the night before Thanksgiving? Maybe you're cooking, maybe you're prepping. I can't think a lot of the guys out there are doing that. Maybe I'm wrong. I am a cook myself, but my wife handles Thanksgiving, and on Christmas Day I do a little thing here and there, for me. But other than that, we're talking comics tonight. So what is going on? It's Wednesday night. Most of us probably have off tomorrow. At least I do, which is a rarity. Then going back to work on Friday. But what's going on? Like I said, I want to hear from everyone out there in the comments. Have you bought any comics recently? What were they? How long you been looking for them? Is there anything that you are looking for right now that you can't find? Any questions for me? I'm hoping somebody jumps on here with me so we could talk a little bit. But if not, like I said, we'll bag this after about 20 minutes. So let me say to the very few that are in the chat right now. And by the way, before I do that, the link to jump on is pinned in the live chat. So do yourself a favor, just copy that if you want to jump on. All I ask is that you be respectful to anyone out there and to my channel, of course. I'm going to say hello to Gary Hahn. What is going on, brother? John Band, greetings from the Windy City. What is up, man? Charlie D, I'm from Canada. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Thank you very much. And Eli Gunther, what's going on? Very, very cute picture there. But yeah, we're just hanging out. There's really nothing going on. Hello to Mills Kills 123. What's going on, man? So, like I said, if there's anybody who's in the chat who wants to jump in, we're going to be here for a little bit, just talking. But let's start it off talking about: is anybody submitting to CGC right now with the wait times? Do you have books over there? If you've been following me for a while, I haven't really submitted books in quite a while for comics CGC, but I have submitted some video games. Here's is something that just came back about a week ago, among a few others. So Contra and a 7.0. Love this game growing up, and I actually like playing it in the arcades. I was more of an arcade kid, and of course, an old school NES kid as well. But I love Contra. I love all the old school, vertical Nintendo cabinets. That was really me growing up. So back to CGC though. Anybody out there in the chat submitting books to them? If you are, what are you submitting? You're submitting modern. Modern's not as bad as the vintage. I'm hearing vintage is like 118 days. That's working days. So you got to figure that's got to be at least 6 months, which is absolutely insane right now. I have a theory on why they're doing this. And I think maybe they're trying to fix all the mishaps that are going on. I know they've let go a bunch of people, but I think trying to fix internally what's going on there. So they're just giving themselves enough room to kind of push things back, giving them enough time to fix what they have going on. That's my theory. And that's a good thing for them to do. If I am right, I don't know if I am. It's just makes no sense otherwise to me, right? Makes zero sense. So Jeff Fonzo says, what's up, Mighty? Just found your channel from Bid with Swagglehorse. Greetings from Phoenix. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. That was one of my favorite videos that I've ever done. I love Mickey. That was actually the first time me and him have actually spoken. So I reached out to him to say, I really had some thoughts about the comic market right now. Who else to talk about this than with him, because we kind of do similar things. Like we follow the market a lot, and it was great finally catching up. I know last year at NY Comic Con, we tried to hook up. I missed them the past couple of years. So hopefully we'll be doing more stuff together. That is the plan, at least on my end. Looking for an X-Men Annual 14 and X-Men 266. The 266 is a really hot book right now. If you watch my Hot 10 Comics, people like that book has been on the list for like at least 6 months. So I actually said it this week. It's coming again tomorrow. A 9.6, I think, was 265, which I didn't think was a bad price for a 9.6, especially if you thought the book had potential to get to a 9.8, because at a 9.8, the book's like $600. So that's a good chunk of change there you could pocket. Or like I always say, just try to get the grade that you're happy with in a raw form. I think anything over a 9.2 just to keep it in collection is totally fine raw. So it says no, unless it's a high value book. That meaning what he's talking about is submitting to CGC. I agree. Even that, like I think my other thought was they're trying to make people use the fast track, and somebody else said that to me as well. That they were thinking that they want to force people to add in that money to fast track books. Makes sense, but I don't know. It's not that much money to add. So how much really would that bring in? That's just my assumption. Jeff says he just bought an ASM 325 in a 9.8. Wow. Love that McFarlane Red Skull cover. Yes, that is a beautiful. Todd's run on ASM was too short lived for me. Like, I agree. That's when I was really heavily into comics, probably a little bit before him, actually. But that whole run, I was super sad to see him get off ASM and start the Spider-Man title, even though that Spider-Man 1 cover to this day is one of my favorites. And that was short lived. Only went 16 issues. And I think still one of those out of the 16 wasn't him. So very short-lived. I would love to see him stay on that title longer. So Charlie says he's sending modern 9.8 pre-screens, and that's all. That's what I'm hearing. The CGC is focusing on modern, and they're pushing vintage back. But I think it's because of that whole Banana Cake thing, and they want to really start fixing their issues. That's just a guess on my part, though. We'll see what happens. Synthetic panels. What's going on? Thank you for joining me. Again, anybody who wants to jump in, you're more than welcome as long as you're respectful. The link is in the description of the video and in the beginning of the live chat. I pinned it, so don't be afraid. You can come on and we can talk comics. Mike Dennis says, no, keep them raw. So, like, I'm with you. And it's not because I don't like graded books. I have graded books. You guys see it. It's just I don't want to spend the money. The money right now to send in a vintage book over $1,000 to me is just too much. It's too much money. Back in the day, when they had like 4 or 5 different tiers, you can kind of mix and match, and it was worth it because I think it was like $50 to $60 to send a $400 book in, which to me, I would do that all day long. I would totally do it. But now it's like $100 and something dollars to send in a vintage book over a certain amount. It's just, you send in 4 books, it's $400. That's too much money for me. I can't do that. Like, they got a little bit too greedy. I thought you did well on the MJ interview. Thank you so much. So anybody who hasn't checked out my interview over there with MJ Comics, me and him, ever since we started speaking and coming on there, we've been chit-chatting every day. So we hope to keep that going. Awesome dude. Whatever I could do to help, grow his channel and, keep the friendship going, I'm all for it, man. He's a really good dude. I actually invited him to come on today, but the time difference is a little bit too much for him, which I get. Charlie DC's got 3 boxes of old Blue Label, but thinking it makes more sense to sell them as is versus trying to reholder. So I'm going to tell you a story. Me personally, I have an old label Superman 1, and actually I have 2 CBCS books that I was thinking about reholdering, and then one, getting over the other 2 into CGC. And after all the stuff that I saw for the reholder stuff about, people sliding books in and out, I got super scared. Why? I don't know if I would take that chance to do that. God forbid somebody could slide something else in there, because my Superman is actually, a reproduction cover. They could put any book in there and then slide the cover over it, right? I would have no clue, none the wiser. So to me, that's why it got me with all that reholder nonsense. I said, forget it. It makes no sense. But hold on, before I go any further, we have Bruce from up north. Now, he'd messaged me on Instagram saying he was maybe going to try to get on. He says he has something to get off his chest, so I hope everything's all right, but let me bring him in here. What's up, my man?
Hey, how's it going, man? Long time no see.
Yeah, I know. So anybody who doesn't know, I met Bruce for the first time at Terrificon this year, and we didn't have a lot of time to chat, but, I was there only for the one day because I bring my wife every year to Terrificon, so we kind of turn it into one night thing. We go to dinner, do stuff like that. But
yeah,
how are you?
Good, man. Expecting my my next son to be born in February. So
congratulations, my man.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Yeah. Busy with the other one too. So he my other son, he just turned 3 last weekend. So this past weekend.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
That's I can imagine that's a tough age. So for anybody who doesn't know, I have 2 stepsons, and I got involved with the youngest. He was 4 and he was a handful. So I can imagine having 2 and even a younger one after that is going to be a lot to handle.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
So was that what I was going to say? Was that you had to get off your chest?
No. It's just it's comic book related. So So basically, I mean, do you want me to just go out and start talking
Yeah.
about it, or
Yeah,
okay?
that's why we're here, man. As long as you're okay with it.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So, before Terrificon, I was really, invested in comics and in the group, in the community as a whole, and I had tried to start my own YouTube channel, and it got to the point where I was like, man, this isn't getting anywhere. So, I kind of like, the group that I went with to Terrificon with, I just announced to them like, hey guys, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think I'm going to take a step back from the YouTube thing, and they respected that, and they were like, some of them were a little bit bummed out. I know my buddy Brandon from Odd Comics, he was bummed out about it. He's like, we've known each other for almost 10 years now, and he was like, man, you should keep going at it with something else. And I told the guys a little bit before that I was really getting back into collecting vintage toys again, because that was what I was doing before I got into comics. So basically the only thing I want to get off my chest is just that. I mean, I got kind of burnt out from comics, and I actually haven't picked up any actual books since Terrificon, and that was in August. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I I I I was gonna say I understand your feeling because I did a video about a year ago how saying I was getting a little burnout, more of so of buying stuff
yeah,
than actual comics. But the one thing I want to say before you tell me the rest of the story is that
sure.
I understand the YouTube thing because
Hmm.
I've been doing this for 5 years, man. It took me 5 years to get there. So the one thing I'm going to say to you is, if you enjoy doing it, don't give up. Just I'll be more than happy to give you whatever advice I can. And I'm not, whatever. I'm not Comic Tom for God's sake, but you know, whatever it is, like if you enjoy doing it, go for it. Doesn't matter what the views are. Eventually, they start picking up.
Yeah, so that was kind of where I was at. Was just I was involved with a community, and I had people that watched my videos, but it just wasn't reaching a number that I was really like happy with. And the time that I had to put into it, all the editing, and to find the time to record a video, I can't do it during the day, I can't do it on weekends during the day. It'd have to be nighttime, and I work a 12-hour shift job, which is like rotating from days and nights. So just finding the time to do it was becoming overwhelming a little bit. And it's kind of like going to the gym, right? Like you can make all the excuses in the world not to go, but the real ones, the ones that are dedicated to it, they push through it. And I
Yeah.
just wasn't there. I wasn't feeling it. It wasn't for me.
I get it, man. Trust me. The one thing I'll say is about any collecting, and I'm a vintage toy collector too, by the way. So but
Okay.
that's the next question I'm gonna keep asking you
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
enjoy vintage toys as well. I'm a collector
Okay.
of everything like that I grew up with. So,
Yeah.
like, what vintage toys do you collect? Do you have certain ones that you fond of?
Yeah. So right now it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's my focus.
The original line, or
Yes. So everything from the 90s to like 98, 95, around there. I try not to go too much into like the later, because with that toy line, they got substantially worse, right? And they were kind of making things that didn't really make sense. So I kind of try to stay like towards like 89 to 90 to 91, 92, like in there. So I got some of the harder to find pieces, which kind of doesn't make sense, because the other thing I was going to say was how expensive comics were. I mean,
yeah,
this summer it was it's crazy. Like I went out and I bought myself a Hulk 181, right? And I paid $2,500 for it. I'll be straight up. That's how much I paid. And I got it in, and I looked at it and I was like, man, is this really worth that much? Like I see that book all the time. When I went to Terrificon, I saw it everywhere. So it's like I'm weighing it in my mind, and that's where my thought process kind of started. I called some of my comic book friends up and I said, hey, I had to unload it. I had some other thing that came up for my son, and I needed the cash, and it was easy to get liquidate. I had that book for a month before I sold it, because I'm
wow.
so scared of having that book, something that I paid that much for, sitting in my house. And I was like, man, like,
So let me ask you a question: was it more that actual book, the commonality of it, or was it just the money, or both?
I don't really have the nostalgic ties to comics. So my nostalgia from that gears towards when I was growing up. My dad collected comics, and I think he still does. But um, you know, I had comics growing up, but it wasn't like I had toys growing up. You know, that was my thing. So um, when I started collecting comics, I didn't really have that feeling with them. So it was like, where do I want to go with this? Like, how far do I want to take this? And you know, you got to have some goals set, right? And one of the goals
Absolutely.
yeah, one of the goals I had last year was or this year, I should say, was to acquire Hulk 181. And I didn't really like have a tie to the book. Like, it's not like I grew up wanting this book all my life, and I finally have it when I'm an adult and I have adult money to play with. So that was the other thing. Like, you know, save it for the people that really, really enjoy it. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I don't enjoy comics, because I do. I definitely do. But I'm not the kind of person that's gonna go out there and dish out all that kind of money for high grade books when I could just buy a reader and be happy with that, you know? Especially
I'm
the
with
really
you.
expensive stuff.
I'm with you because I'm more of a mid to low grade collector, and my focus usually is on the Silver Age. So like, I don't feel the need to spend ridiculous amount of money on something I can get for cheaper, because I'm not buying comics 99% of the time for like investment. I'm buying my comics because I have like an attachment to them, or I have like a fond memory of them, or I like the
Yeah.
character. I grew up with it, so like I don't mind buying lower grade stuff, especially when they're more affordable. But
Okay.
it happens to everybody. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like when you said you've had that book for a month and the amount of money, there was a turning point for me as well. When I'm like, you know what? I was buying a lot of stuff. I'm like, do I need this? Does this make me happy? Do I have an attachment to this character? And it was no. And it's just because, you get so used to buying things as a collector that it's kind of hard to stop at times. And that's where it
Oh
really
yeah.
takes a
Yeah.
hold of you.
It is. It is really tough. And I haven't slowed down buying anything since we got back from the trip. That was the other thing too, was like, you know, now I'm jumping in at Ninja Turtles, and even that's expensive. There's a figure out there. I don't own it right now, but you know, things like that could get expensive. There's an actual figure out there right now, and it's Scratch the Cat. It's a character that nobody knows about. He wasn't in the cartoon, nothing like that. They produced it, and it was so rare at the time because nobody wanted it, that now it's hard to find, and that just the figure alone is worth $1,000, not even
Yeah.
complete. So there's big money in that too. So you know,
So do you collect just loose, or you collect mint on card too?
I collect loose. I was really not a fan of graded books. I mean, I have some graded books behind me, but I really wasn't a fan of graded comic books, and I'm not a fan of mint on card. I feel like I love to display my stuff, so I'm a loose guy. I definitely love to collect loose figures, get them complete when I can. So
It is hard, especially to find loose figures complete. Like I'm a bit of
yeah,
both. I have some mint on card stuff and I have some loose. Like
okay.
I'm a big Motu guy, so I'm probably a little bit older than you. So
No, I have
uh,
Motu. I have Motu.
really,
Yeah,
sorry, I didn't even think you were in your 40s yet. So I was gonna say Motu is
almost.
like almost okay. So I'm like I probably still got 8 or 9 years on you then,
I'm 30. I'm
dude.
38. I'm turning 38
All
this
right,
year.
so I'm 9 years older than you right
Okay.
there.
Okay.
So, dude, I'm like I was a Motu addict when I was a kid. I've had like every line that I've collected, and I've sold a
Hmm.
lot of it, but like I have almost all the loose original figures, and I have a few that are mint on card.
Yeah.
But like they're so expensive. Anything from the 80s mint on card is just ridiculous, as if they're like original. They're just ridiculously expensive.
Hmm. And they're always going to be collectible.
Well, that was my next question. I was gonna ask you, do you feel, and I shouldn't say this with turtles, because the turtles have really stood the test of time. They've seemed like they've come out with new shows, new movies, new figures every year, every couple of years. Remote 2 is not like that. You'll get some new figures, but no show has really taken like the same amount of steps that the original show has. So kids aren't
Yeah.
really involved in Motu. So
Right.
that's
Right.
I have trepidation in buying some of the mint on card stuff, because I have a feeling down the road I may not be able to get rid of it because the younger generation is not going to give a shit about Motu.
You know what though? And I will say this with my experience, okay, with paying attention to things and watching things on YouTube. Motu is very highly collectible in Europe. Everybody in
Yes.
Europe loves Motu.
Yep.
So you can't,
Germany is like crazy over it,
right.
man.
So you can't take the United States and think that is where everything is going to be of value, because it's not true. You got to think of other countries as well. So you got to look at trends that are happening all across the board. And Motu is a big one. It's very highly collectible for Europe, like I said, in Germany and all that. So that's where I'm not opposed to buying Motu. When we were at Terrificon, I actually bought a complete scare glow and a sorceress. I found those both there, and I bought them.
Really? So
Yeah.
those are two that I'm missing because they're like two of the most expensive loose figures you're gonna find, and I don't want to spend like over $100 on each figure.
Okay. See, sorceress I found for 100, and scare glow the guy had it for 400. I went
Oh my
back to his
god.
table and I was like, would you take anything less? He was like, I could do 300. And I was like, all right, man. So I gave
Yeah,
him the
it's
money.
hard. Yeah, it's hard to. That's hard. Scareglow to find. He comes with like a green staff and a
Mhm.
cape. It's so
Yeah,
hard to find that figure complete.
it is. It is. And I had one before I got into comics. And I think, no, I sold it before I had my son. So that was a legitimate reason, because I didn't know like how much money we were going to have or whatever like that. But did regret getting rid of it. So when I saw it, I had to get it. And funny thing about that is me and Ricky had gone down to Terrificon together. And Ricky, I'm talking about all sorts of words, Ricky. We had gone down to Terrificon together, and we stopped at this place. It was a comic book store in Mass, and they had action figures there too in the basement. So top level was comics, and the bottom was action figures and stuff like that. And I think it was called Comically Speaking was the name of the store. And me, I was just looking for action figures at the time, so I went down there and they had a scare glow, but it didn't have the staff. So I picked that up. I think I paid $100, 150
Yeah,
bucks. So I took it with me, obviously. And then when we were at the show, I was like, man, I really want to complete one. So I had two that I brought home
yeah.
with me. I sold the other one, but
Well, that's the
yeah.
thing. Like, you could still sell loose stuff on eBay all the time. Like, I go. There's like a local show, a toy show that runs by me every month, and I always go there. But it's always the same vendors, and the same guy has Scareglow, and he's got the Sorcerer's complete. And I go to him every time, and I said, "You have any more room that you had last time?" He's like, "No." So, but whatever. So I don't know what Robert Davis is saying, buddy. He's a channel member. He's like, I got my Jordans for sale with him. I don't know who he's referring to. I thought he meant you, but it can't be you, right?
No, no.
Yeah. Okay. So is there any chance of you getting back in the comics? By the way, I miss Ricky because he's gone MIA. I know he's got some stuff going on, but I haven't seen him do videos in a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, he was another one too that wanted to take a step back. He wanted to focus on him and his wife's relationship, with which I understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But is there a chance I could get back into the comics?
Like,
Absolutely.
is there any book that would get you back in for like, oh man, wow, like I never thought I could have that and then have an opportunity here or no?
This is actually the second time that I do this where I quit collecting for a little while, where I take a long break like this. The first time I did it was I was just shopping on Whatnot, and I didn't really know anybody in the community yet. I knew Brandon because we've been buddies for close to 10 years, like I said, and he sent me a book out of the blue, and it was Wolverine number 10, the one with the red cover,
Mhm.
and he's coming at you with the claws. And I saw that book and I was like, man, that is such a nice book. And it's not an expensive book or anything like that. And it was just the fact that he sent me that just out of the blue. And, I was just looking at it. I was like, man, I should really dive back into comics. So that's when I got into it again. So, I mean, it's not to say that it won't happen, but I think I got too involved with the whole like buying high grade CGC, got to get this clean and pressed to send it in to get graded. And I was just like, nah, it's not for me. Like, I think if I were to get back into it, it would just be, like a side thing. I think I want
Yeah.
toys to be my number one thing. And then, comics to be just something that I enjoy on the side.
I got you. I got you. So I'm gonna check up in the chat and just read a few of these comments because
Yeah.
nice enough people to to leave comments. But I also want to address the chat. If you guys have questions, comic related, toy related, while I have Bruce here with us, drop them in the chat. So Sean says CGC has lost tons of credibility with me. I was super excited about them and paid for a membership, and then Bananagate happened. Loving raw books right now. So I agree with you, man. Like for me, yes, I agree with the whole Bananagate and all the other crap that's gone on. But I've said it before, like the amount of money it costs to grade something, and I got to ask, why is it necessary? So let me just say how hypocritical I am, because obviously I just graded a loose Nintendo game. So, and I mainly did it because I wanted to see what the process was like. And I got to be honest, they did a pretty good job. They got back to me within 2 months. I'm happy with the results for the most part. So it's just, to me, it's the cost of everything. So Robert Davis says hello. Vinny, hello. What's going on, brother? Gary says he picked up an X-Men Raw 267 newsstand for $35. Came back a 9.8 and sold it for $1,400.
Wow.
Holy crap.
Congrats. That's big.
That's why I asked the question when you get back in comics, because that I could get it. If you could buy like a freaking book and you have a really good eye and you know what it's worth and super high grade, that's where it kind of makes it worth it. If you're just trying to do that,
yeah,
that's crazy.
Definitely.
Let's see what else we have. Izzy is in the house. He said, what's going on, Lawrence? Sean asks, what am I sipping on? This is just Maker's Mark. Nothing crazy tonight. So Jeff says, congrats, Bruce. I'm not sure. Oh, that's obviously for the births upcoming. Congrats to you from Jeff.
You. Yeah.
Kenneth Bird, what's going on? Jeff says, you do what makes you happy. Watcher is in the house. Evening all. Nothing says, what up, Mighty? I asked Izzy to jump on, but he says he's prepping for Thanksgiving at his house tomorrow.
Yeah, I would imagine there's a lot of people that are busy for the holidays.
So Poetry says it's John, also known as Newsstand Comic Collector from IG, to stop by to say hello and happy Thanksgiving. John, I did not know you were on YouTube. I knew you watched some of my videos, but happy Thanksgiving to you and your family as well. We will chit chat soon. Luis Mendoza says, yo, what's up, fellas? Hey, this may be a question for you. Has anyone ordered the HasLab Star Wars Ghost? I just got notified that it's shipping this December. Do you collect Star Wars at all or no?
I do, yeah, but this is vintage stuff. So I'm not really into modern, so that's not really a question I can answer. My love is more like Kenner Star Wars, the old stuff.
You're like me. I grew up with that stuff. And I think they came out in like 79 was the first wave. And I might be wrong on that year because it's been long. Like, dude, that was 2 years after I was born. So it's like, if you can find that stuff now, and especially carded, I remember my LCS got like a ton of carded, and like whoever had them in boxes. They weren't graded, but they were just like beautiful. And they had them for a little bit at their shop, but they went pretty quick. So those are highly collectible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Chef, what's going on, brother? Good evening. And Robert says he sold them with MJ. I got you. Nothing says he can't wait till slabs die. I don't think they're ever going to die. Do you?
I don't think so.
There are too many new books that come out, they get graded, that people can make money on. So that's how I think they'll never die. Other YouTubers have made comments about, eventually everything will be slabbed, and I agree with that to an extent. Every key probably will be slabbed at some point, but I think the more we go on, people are starting to notice that no book is rare. Even some of the Golden Age stuff, somebody found a Detective Comics 27 at a garage sale, for God's sake.
Yeah.
So that's a dream book, but still, I just, slabbing is never going away. The companies may change. Like, I think Beckett and CBCS is on their way out. I know that Beckett's having some issues, and now CBCS just offered 25%. I don't know if you saw. They just put it out today, 25% off submissions.
CGC did that?
No, CBCS.
Oh, CBCS. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they're definitely something going on there.
Yeah.
He says, by the way, thanks for the great conversation and advice. Have a great and awesome Thanksgiving. You too, brother. Anytime. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. I have a smudge on my glasses. Very good. What do you think of seeing Miles Morales in live action in a few years, then seeing Deadpool versus Miles Morales like the comic just announced? Two of the most hype modern characters meeting eventually. You want to start or should I?
Oh, you could go ahead.
So I don't think that is ever going to happen on the big screen. You may get a Miles Morales that jumps into like Secret Wars. I don't know if that's going to happen. Probably not till after Secret Wars, so I doubt it. Ryan Reynolds is on his last legs as Deadpool. I think they're probably going to do one more Deadpool. It's going to be in Secret Wars, but maybe some cameos after that here and there, and that's it. They're not going to keep going. He's getting up there in age. I don't think he wants to do this forever either, and I don't think they can replace that character, but with anyone else, just like Iron Man. I think it's going to be too hard for them to replace it, and he's the only Deadpool, so I don't think you're ever going to get those two on the screen.
That's a very good point. I was just gonna say that they don't want to beat the dead horse. I mean, they're on their, third movie, so they don't want to keep going too far with it. But I mean, Deadpool versus Wolverine was excellent. I mean, that was the best movie to come out this year as far as the MCU. So who knows? They're gonna have to mix it up, man. They're gonna have to do some other stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think they already announced that after Secret Wars, it's going to be the X-Men saga and bringing all those characters in.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually they're going to have to replace Captain America, Iron Man down the road. It's not going to be anytime soon.
Yeah.
So, and same with Wolverine. Like, I don't think Hugh Jackman's going to do this forever.
No.
But my biggest worry about that is like, these characters have become iconic with these actors. How are those, characters going to be, recast? How are they going to be perceived by fans? I mean, it's hard to replace those 3 or 4 characters. I don't think it can be done. So I think the interest will die down. I think only hardcore collectors, like myself and other people like yourself, if you come back into it, are going to go watch those movies. I don't think everybody will.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Very good point. I mean, it's like anything else, it's not going to last forever, but I mean, how long have people been collecting comics for? How long have people been collecting toys for,
Probably toys, I would think longer, but I don't know. I mean, I always see people with trinkets from like the 20s and stuff like that. So people collecting those, I think, a lot longer. I think people got really serious in the 1970s about collecting comics. That's why I think you have so many more nicer copies and so many more copies that are in existence of Bronze Age and up. Mm-hmm. Whereas the silver, still people were kind of folding them and putting them in their pockets and shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Gary says slabs are necessary. Example is at X-Men 266. No way I would have gotten that much if it was raw. No, I agree. I mean, it's necessary to an extent. But my thing is that when you're slabbing a book and then it comes back bent or whatever, and there's no remorse, they're not fixing it, or even if they do fix it, they're not completely fixing it. Like, how does that help anybody? Do you think the person who got that slab back can actually sell that book in a 9.8 or whatever grade it has now? The answer is no. They cannot. They've wasted money sending that book in to be graded, and not even that, they've wasted time. So who just told me? Somebody told me something about. Oh no, you know who it was? It was John, newsstand collector. He said to me that he sent in a book to be graded, and he paid a certain price, and he just saw some comparable sales. And it was less than what he paid for, and it's been at CGC forever. So because of the delay, it's costing him money.
Yeah.
And I hope it doesn't come back bananified.
Yeah, I've been hearing things with that too. I've been hearing things with CBCS, same issue. So
yeah, really. So Robert says if graders want to really shake shit up, they could R&D a way to slab your comic and keep it readable, like Gorilla Glass and hinges or something. I don't think that's a possibility because that would affect the integrity of the grade if you could open it up and read it, unless they're going to slab every page like together. But I don't think that's going to happen. Oh, that was good. So like I said, guys, if anyone else wants to jump in here, be my guest. The link is at the top of the chat and in the description if you want to join us. I don't know how much time Bruce has or what else he has planned tonight, but if you have 50-year-old comic and want to sell it, no questions asked, then sure, send it in. If it comes back with a high grade, then cool. Upsell it $100 by people paying hundreds over raw price. Nah, not. Gotcha. I said the pimp. I'm not following this. Nothing. Jesse James, what's going on? Movies and collectors are loyal to both brands, both culturally and traditionally. It's the non-comic book reader that would be more worried about the actors. That's my point. Like, but that's who goes to see movies, right? And you saw like hardcore fans go see, name a movie that did okay but not great. Like, obviously everyone's going to go see a Spider-Man movie because of the character. Everybody's going to go see a Batman movie because of the character. How many people were going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy if the first couple of Marvel movies weren't that great? You know what I mean? Nobody, just the average fan or, Marvel person who's not into comics is going to go see that, not really going to go see that. So that's my whole point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think the market sentiment is hitting collectibles hard. News of war has people storing money in hard assets. Even Bitcoin having difficulties breaking 100K until Trump eases minds of war withdrawal. That's over my head. Yeah, I agree. There's definitely some market pressures out there and some political things going on that's not only affecting collectibles, but everything. You've seen even the market, the regular stock market, people are saying it's going up. But if you really pay attention, it's bleeding up, meaning there's not a lot of volume. A lot of people are out of the market. So
Yeah. What are you
let's
seeing
focus
on prices of books?
I mean, for
Since the
me, like
summer?
I just did I bunch of videos. I just put something out regarding the heritage sale. You pay attention to the heritage sales that just came out on those big books.
I didn't. No.
Okay, so there were some Action Comics 1, 2 Detective Comics 27, a Batman 1, a Superman 1, a Tech 31, and a Batman 11, all in the same auction, which is to me is just fucking wild to have all those books in the same auction.
That is wild, yeah.
But I just did a video. It's actually out for members now, but it'll come out, I think, Friday for everybody else. Some of those books did really well, which is really good for comics, and a couple did not. I don't want to say which if you haven't paid attention to the heritage stuff, but it's a little head scratching, but I think the higher the value of the book, the more it's going to struggle right now.
Okay.
And where I think the low end and the mid end is doing just fine. People are still buying Copper Age books. People are still buying Bronze Age books. They're looking for deals like they should be because those books are plentiful, right? There's a lot of copies of that stuff. The silver is like still like very bouncy where it'll come down, it'll come back up depending on the sale. So like that's a bottoming process. So like that's what happens when people are like prices fluctuate because people are bottoming. They don't know where it's going to land. They don't know where the bottom is. So that's usually what happens. So that's actually a good sign that it's doing that. But the golden age is like, it's really hit or miss right now. And I think the lower the dollar amount, the better off you are.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think anyone buying a book 500 or less is in pretty good shape because I think that's where a lot of the money is going from collectors right now. It seems to be picking up those $500 and under really, really well. But people are really buying those books.
Yeah, I'm still seeing deals out there as well. No, even though I'm not buying books, I'm still seeing a lot of deals. Even at Terrificon, there was plenty of deals to be had. So, I think the market is fine, and I don't think people should stress out about it. Like, I don't see it going down far. I don't think we're ever going to see a time like COVID again, but who knows?
No, I don't think so either. I think that was a once in a lifetime thing that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
What was I gonna say? I just lost my train of thought. Oh, there he is.
You wanted to come say hi.
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 What's your name?
Bo.
Say it again.
His name's
Bob.
Bo.
Bo. Oh, there you go. Hi, Bo. I'm Lawrence. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I want today.
Is he into comic characters at all yet or no?
He likes comics. He has a few of them that I gave him, like the Mickey Mouse, Spider-Man, and some other ones, some X-Men. He likes them. He knows what they are. When I get them in the mail, he knew exactly what they are. So I'm hoping to get him. Yeah, I'm hoping to get him around that kind of stuff. So
Look at them.
There's one right there. Right behind me. There's one right behind me.
No, I want one from me.
Oh, okay.
Smart kid.
Yeah, he is.
Are you going to go back to Terrificon this year? You think or no?
I've discussed it. I think I really want to try to get to Heroes Con, but it's really hard to tell right now. I mean, the next one's coming in February, so it's gonna be tough to try to plan that.
Yeah.
It's all gonna depend on how my wife, if she's gonna pull her hair out or whatever.
Yeah. That's going to be tough. 2
Yeah.
kids, one newborn.
Yeah. Yeah, it is tough. You want to go back upstairs?
Yeah. You want to come get my comic?
Yeah, sure.
Wait.
I'll be right back.
All right, so guys in the chat, do me a favor, drop me your questions. Right, we're here for a little bit longer. I got nothing going on. It's Thursday night. It's almost 8:30. Let's talk some comics, okay? I want to talk about comic books. All right, so I have Gary says he bought the More Fun 5510 from Heritage Auction. Was happy with what I paid. Congratulations, man. That is a huge book. Jesse James says, in my 43 years, there's more backdoor selling of high-end books in history. Horror is big and bondage is trading well. I got to be honest with you. I think you're 100% right on that. Me and Swaggle touched on that in their video on how many books actually get passed through dealer to dealer, auction house to dealer, auction house to auction house. I think you're right on the money with that. So, and I actually think, and I'm saying this, and I have no confirmation, this is pure speculation, that some of these books don't actually even sell. Okay. I don't know that. It's just pure speculation on my end. Izzy says, I've been seeing more of a nostalgic purchases from the 80s and copper age. 100%, dude. Copper and bronze right now is just absolutely on fire, but not price-wise on fire. There's just so many changing hands right now. I've seen like Secret Wars 8 always been a very popular book, and a 9.8 was up at 600 and change. Now it's fallen down to low 500s. X-Men 266, talk about it before. It's been on the list, Hot 10 breakdown of the list for the better part of a year. New Mutants 98 is under $1,000 now and a 9.8. So even ASM 300, under $3,000 and a 9.8. One of the most common books out there, but because it is a nostalgia book, because it has a first appearance of great characters. And that's what a lot of these books are. 266, ASM 300, they're phenomenal characters that we've grown up with, and that's why people want to own them. That's why they'll always have like palpability, I'll say, that's the word. They're always going to get sold. The problem is that you better have a great copy because there's just so many out there that someone else can choose from. But if you want to, I think a lot of people just want to own the book. He says it's the nature of the game, 100%. Reading Immortal Hulk on Marvel Unlimited, crazy Hulk story this far from the Ruffalo Hulk. Do you think Immortal Hulk can see the big screen? Eventually, yeah, I think that's the route that they're going. 100%, I do. I don't always think that's the best way to go for Marvel. I like to see them play out the vintage stuff first with all these characters and then go overhead into some of the modern characters. Because you have to understand the movie aspect of it, I think for the most part, are people our age, right? So some of them may not be modern collectors. Some may not be modern readers, or they don't have familiarity with those characters. And you can't just say, oh, I'm putting out Hulk, because they're not going to know. They probably think it's Bruce Banner. You know what I'm saying? So I think Marvel should stay clear away from that for now. Eventually, let them end what they have going on, and then let those other characters take over. He's back.
He wanted to show you his books.
Oh, okay. Let me see. Oh, wow. Very nice.
You want to show him the other one?
Yeah, show me the next one. Wow, that's a great cover. 2 great homage covers right there.
Yep. So he likes that one.
Very cool.
And then
the third homage. I didn't even know they made those. Those are really cool.
Yeah, they are pretty cool. We had a couple of us had a comic book sale on YouTube over the winter. I think it was like early spring.
Yeah.
And I got him those. So they're pretty cool.
Good job, Dad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem, bud. Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, he's cute.
Thank you. Yeah, he's a handful though.
Oh, they're all a handful, brother. Wait till they become teenagers. You have
Uh,
no idea. Not only become a handful, they become out of control.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
then they're bigger than you, and then you can't stop
Mhm.
them.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that totally.
My oldest is just about to turn 17, and he's bigger than me now. So there's not much I can do. We could still
Yeah,
go at it, but I might be at a disadvantage at this point.
yeah, yeah, I get it. Yeah,
I got
yeah.
to pull my Ric Flair, knee him in the balls and shit.
For sure.
So I told the chat while we were gone, I want to focus more on comics. There seems to be a lot more comic stuff going on.
Yeah, that's
A lot of
cool.
people want to talk about stuff. So like Jesse
Yeah.
James says, he talked about how dealers and auction houses, I mentioned it, that how a lot of them are backdooring books to each other. And he says, keep in mind, there's more trading than selling when you get involved with whales. They will dump 20 books to get one big book they need. So you are correct, dude. I've done that myself. People who watch my channel, I had like 13 Silver Age, all big keys, all of them, some bronze in that and there. And then I traded that for a Batman one. I think that's your progression as a collector a lot of the time. Some people don't want to do that, and I totally understand. But it's always what's next. I've talked about this before, especially at the interview I did with MJ. It's always about what's next. We always take a break as collectors, like Bruce is doing now, focusing on his vintage toy run and stuff like that. I've done it multiple times. As a kid, came back right after I got out of college, took a break, came back in 2017, and now I'm kind of like, I'm not really selling anything at this point anymore, but like I'm kind of, my buying has plateaued because it's always what's next. What can you do next? And eventually it ends because you can't go any further, right?
Yeah, you're chasing like the really big books, like
Yeah.
the really pricey ones, and sometimes it can't be possible. There could be dreams, but
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You go from like comics or in your case, vintage toys to comics back to vintage toys. Me, I went from, I never stopped. I go from like toys to comics to arcades to video games. It doesn't stop. That's
Mhm.
we're like addicts. I hate to say it.
Oh yeah,
Jeff says
yeah,
I've been collecting photo covers to shows I watched, like X Files and Charm. Some of them are really hard to find. Yeah, I mean, it could be as something as simple as that, right? Like it's just something that triggers you remember that show and that show was awesome and like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Mm,
That's how it works.
yeah,
Izzy says, and I'm glad you bring this up. Popular covers like Hulk 340, we see it in the background right there, are
yep.
very popular in sales. Dude, that book has been on the Hot 10 breakdown. It will not go away. That is like the hottest book out there right now. Everybody and their grandmother is looking to buy that book. So there you go. Now you should sell that thing. I can't see what the grade is.
So now I know.
Now I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a newsstand.
Yeah, newsstand. Yeah, I like newsstands. I prefer newsstands over direct. This is my thing. But yeah, it's a nice book. I don't think I'll sell it. There's definitely some books. I have sold some books since I've gone back into collecting toys, but there's just some books that I can't let go of. Like I really like this. I like the way it looks in the slab.
I like that label. I'm
Thank
one of
you.
the few people who like
Yeah.
the Marvel labels. Some
Yeah.
people don't. I don't like all of them, but some of them, like that one, is really nice. The Ghost Rider one they had to me was the best one they ever did. It was freaking phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got a question from Brandon. Says, "What are your thoughts on modern comics? Is there anything current that you are reading? Do you reading anything now, Bruce, or no?"
A little bit. So I just read Dark Nighthawk, I think, or Darkhawk. Sorry, I don't remember, but somebody sent it to me, so that's why I read it. But other than that, Something is Killing the Children, I read. I tried to find some of those books at Terrificon, and they were kind of hard to find. I don't know why, but
I myself, I have stuck to trade paperbacks on stories that I
yeah,
want to read or I
yeah.
have read in the past that I want to keep in my collection because I've sold all my like minor issues. I only have literally I have 5 books back there. I have 2 right here, 7, and I have my ASM 1 to 301, and that's all I have.
Yeah.
So all my other books I traded or sold. So anything that I love stories on, I'll try to find a trade paperback right now. So I'm actually in the middle of reading The Long Halloween because
Oh,
I
that's one.
I'm about halfway through it. It's really good so far.
Mm.
It's just a story I never read, and everybody says it was fantastic. So I'm a big Batman person, so it's really, really good. And the next one I already bought is Hush. I'm gonna read that when I'm done with that. So I heard that's pretty good as well.
Yeah, those are two that I want to read as well. But as far as modern, yeah, I can't really. I've never been a modern guy.
So Jeff says I traded about 6 or 7 books plus cash from my X-Men one. That's how you got to do it, man.
Mhm.
I did that with my Batman one. I did that with another book I just recently purchased. Sometimes that's what it takes. There's some people out there that don't want to give up books. To me, like, depending what the book is, but you got to remember everything is pretty common. So if you did want to own some of these books again, you can always go back and rebuy it. It depends on what you're trading up for. X-Men 1 is a big book. So like I totally get it. If you have trading smaller keys and you're working your way up to the big one, that's the way to do it. Especially if you're not tied to some of those smaller books. So nothing's buying vinyl. So that's a very popular, believe it or not, collecting thing is vinyl, but I don't do it. But I heard it's that you want to talk about tough. That's tough to find stuff. That's
Yeah.
I'd
I
like
have
to
some
know.
vinyl records.
You do?
Yep. Yeah, I do.
Where do you go to find that stuff? So nothing. Let me know where you go to find that stuff, particularly to look for. But I wouldn't even know where to freaking start.
Yeah, there was a show that I went to in Bangor. I live in Maine, so I went to a show in Bangor, and they actually had a booth that was selling vinyl records. But the rest of them I got from my wife's uncle. He was a big rock guy, so I got Metallica, Iron Maiden, Slayer, stuff like that. Some tough to find pieces for sure, but other than that, yeah, they are really tough. I mean, garage sales, tag sales.
Yeah, I mean that's if I go to a garage sale, I want to find a Tech 27. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah, right.
Dude, I would love to do that, and I know a lot of people do it. I had a garage sale at my house this year, and like my town does a town wide garage sale. So you just put
Yep,
your name in, and they put you on a map and whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah, same with me.
the first time we did it, dude, people were at my house like a half hour before we were even supposed to start. Like people were like savages.
Yeah.
So I don't think I could have the patience for that. So Jesse says he was working in a comic shop when Hulk 340 came out. Lots of people bought it just for the cover, which in those days, most people bought what they collected. Same with Thor 337. Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a great book. It is. It's just, it's super hot right now, and there's a lot of copies. So I don't like people overspending on certain things unless just like you cannot find the book.
Yeah.
Growth in AI and ray tracing tech could potentially be a blessing, could increase the throughput of movies and decrease movie budgets, could potentially revitalize comics in 5 to 10 years. AI is a big thing in movies I hear now. People are getting annoyed with certain things because they can, use somebody's likeness and stuff like that. So I'm sure there'll be a big war over that in some point, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if it's gonna revitalize the the movie like scene, then why not?
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman can't do it forever, like we were talking about a while ago. So the use of AI just to keep that, as long as the stories are awesome, I'm still gonna watch them. That's what we go there for, right? I mean, there's some of us that are a fan of the actors and the way that they portray the characters, but a lot of us like the stories as well. So
He says Hush was a great month-over-month read. Sure, you can binge it, but I like the cliffhangers that the story brought. That's the one thing you don't get buying trade paperback is like the weight of like if you leaves on a cliffhanger, you don't get that. Unless like for me, like I can't finish the thing in like one sitting. It takes me like 5 or 6 sittings to do it. So if you end on a like what the fuck, that's a good point to put it down in my opinion. But a lot of times you can't.
I think that's like that with a lot of things that you read.
Look who's in the chat. He wakes up and he finally's on YouTube. This is my boy Jason at Omega Collects. What's going on, brother? How you doing? So Jeff says he has a garage sale at his house twice a year, and I sell a lot of dollar books that way. People like deals. I can imagine. How many people do you get in your area, Jeff, that are actually looking to buy comics? You advertise comics? Because I constantly see people on YouTube doing the same thing where like they have like Garage Con, they call it, and people have people over the house to go through books. I don't have books to go through, but I would like to go to somebody else's Garage Con and look through their books, especially when they don't know what they have. Right? I don't want to walk in and find 90s foil shit.
There was somebody that called me about, I think it was last fall, and they told me, hey, this lady, she's got comics, go check them out. So I did, and it was just a box of 90s foil junk, like you were saying. And I was very disappointed. And then I was like, just about to leave, and I was like, what are the chances that you have like any video game stuff or anything like that? And she's like, actually, I do. And she pulls out a in-box N64. And I was like, okay. You know, had the foam and everything. No games, but just an N64 in the box. And I was like, how much do you want for it? She goes, how about $10? Sure. There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
$10.
$10.
That's insane. Some people don't know what they have. That's the thing. Like, right? You got to hope for that.
Get rid of it.
Yeah. I don't blame them, but
my son used to play it, and I'm moving, so I don't care, you know. She was happy with the $10.
So Jesse says, let's go. $1 books are king in the retailer world. Jesse, are you a dealer, or are you like, do you have a store or a shop, or you just sell on the side? Let us know. Izzy says he recently picked up a small box collection with first Ultron and Grim Reaper. See, Izzy, how do you find collections? In my life, I found like somebody, like two people. So the first guy reached out to me via my website, and he said, "Did you buy collections?" And I said, "Yeah," but it was all modern crap. So I bought it. I probably paid a little bit too much for it, but I blew it out on Whatnot, which is fine. Didn't make much on it, but it was just an experience. My first collection that I bought. The next one, I got a call from somebody that I knew because they knew I was into comics, and it was an older couple. So I got like really excited. I ended up getting there, and it was just like 80s books, shit that like, nothing good 80s books either. It's just like obscure titles that nobody read ever. And that's really it. So how do you get good deals is?
It's hard to do.
It is. I average, especially like in my area, like there's so much competition for books. It's crazy.
Where do you live?
I live in New Jersey. How about you?
Maine.
Okay, so Maine. I heard it's beautiful there. I thought about vacationing. My dad goes there once in a while. He said he loves it.
It's very nice. Yeah, I live on the very, very top of Maine, so I could see the Canadian border from my front yard. So it's kind of cool.
Are you by the water? Do you fish or anything?
Yep. Hunt and all that stuff. Yep.
See, that's what I think my family would like to go up and fish up there. That's what they would do.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's nice.
I advertised comics for sale on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. I had a guy buy about $500 worth of $30 slabs. Well, that's cool.
That's not bad. Facebook seems to be the biggest. That's where I sell the most stuff.
Really? See, I'm a little scared to buy on Facebook because of all the scams and shit. But I hear people get good deals.
Yeah, they get good deals. You got to know who you're buying from. The easiest way to do is to join groups, and there's a couple groups that I'm in, especially for comics as well. And what you do is you join these groups and you look for what you scroll in and you find something that you like that piques your interest. You got to look for a timestamp on the sale. They got to, it's got to have their name and the date. Whatever they're posting. Like if I'm posting this Hulk 340 behind me, I got to write my name and the date. And then as well, you can click on their name and it'll show you like everything that they posted in that group. So as long as they made a couple more sales, you reach out to them, you say, hey, I'm interested in this, you guys make a deal. And then you always pay goods and services through PayPal first transaction. And then, you get the book and everything's good. You could kind of do friends and family to save yourself those fees, but that's how I've always done it, and it's worked.
So Colossus Collector says, "Hey, I know these guys." So, dude, there's the link is in the chat. If you want to jump in, anybody who wants to jump in and talk with us, come on, dude. You want me to do that Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays thing? Did he send that to you? Were you on that chat or no? I don't know who was on there, but somebody sent me a thing saying to do a Happy Holidays for his channel. I said absolutely. So come on, let's go.
Well, I'm gonna be on his live for his holiday special. So
oh, you're on it. That's why. So everybody who's not on, everyone who wasn't on it, like me, he said, "Oh, if you want to do like a video thing, send it over." So I'll probably do that within the next week or so.
Okay.
I was wondering, do you ever watch my comic book community news skit or no?
Do I?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it, but I thought about doing the holiday thing as either Donna or Jim. So Ryan, if you want me to do a Donna or Jim holiday thing, let me know, or I could just do myself. I don't know what you're fond of.
Yeah.
Jesse is the king of selling. He's been hustling since the 80s. He's a true legend. Dude, I saw his comment about he's reopening in Florida, but I'm out every quarter. That's awesome, man. He came to me from a friend, but normally I see it from Facebook, another Facebook guy. Fortunately, people try to overprice books to have no value. At times, the collection has one or two major keys. Yeah, that's the next thing. Like when I'm looking at like posts, I'm not really talking about Instagram because Instagram has become the place where people want fair market value for the books. But like outside of that, people aren't involved in Instagram or just trying to sell books they think have a value and they actually don't. They overprice a lot of shit. Do you see that a lot on Facebook too?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I do. Instagram as well, but it's hit or miss everywhere, really. eBay is the biggest because they always want to recoup what eBay is, gonna rape from them. So
yeah. Comic Ozzy, what's going on? He said, you got to let everyone know you're into comics. Eventually someone will remember and reach out if a friend or family member needs to move books or a collection. That's the thing. Like, but I don't want to buy like, not that I wouldn't mind buying like a copper collection because I know there's a bunch of keys that could be had that I definitely, all those books move. So, but like, I would love to find a silver or golden age collection, but I just feel like there's so few out there, but yeah, what do I know? Every time I say that, we see another one pop up.
There's a guy, I don't know if you know him too well, Lawrence, but his name is Pockets Full of Comics.
Yeah, yeah.
He just found a collection with Giant Size X-Men 1, some other really big books in there. And a lot of it was filler books, but he was paying, I think he paid $5 a book. So he paid $5 for a Giant Size X-Men 1, which is pretty incredible.
That is, that's what I would love, man. That's what I'm saying. That's like everybody's dream. Like the Tech 27 is everybody's dream, but like that's still good. I would take that.
Yeah, right.
So he says he buys 3,000 to 10,000 books a month. We really have to work the trenches. I'm more live streaming now for the last 10 years. Where do you live stream? Facebook, Jesse? So Jeff says, my wife and I are originally from New Jersey. I'm from Nutley. My wife is from Colonia. That's not too far from me, about 20 minutes. I'm like at the tip of New York, almost at New York, New Jersey. So, and I work in New York. That's why I live here. And I grew up here. That's the next thing. Facebook is great, but there's a lot of non-page you have to deal with. I can imagine.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
There he is. What it do, comic guru? You're disappointed there's no dress tonight? I came for Donna. Donna only comes out once in a while, man. Like she can't come out all the time. There are too many guys out there that want her. I have to keep her socked away, you know? I only sell to local pickups on Facebook Marketplace. That I understand, but like, aren't you limited then to like what you can sell? Like, I can imagine there's probably a lot of people like in my area that want, but I don't know like your area if there's a lot of people. Like if there is, then that's great.
I would suggest the groups. You find the good comic groups, and you can list it as many times as you want. You can list it one day, it doesn't sell. List it another day just to get the eyes on it. It's free, You know what I mean? So that's what I've done in the past. With books, toys, whatever it is, I'll list it for a day. In a couple days, if it doesn't sell, I'll relist it again, and then I'll just like start to work down the price from there until I'm comfortable. You always want to start high obviously. And then, you know, you want to make a profit on whatever you're selling. You don't want to sell at a loss or break even. So, you know, you start at high, and then you just work down your price as you go until you're comfortable enough. And if it doesn't sell, my next resort is eBay.
Yeah, I think eBay, you just get so many eyes. It's just the fees that just freaking kill you.
They kill you. Yeah.
The one thing I will say is that, what was I going to say? Now I lost my freaking train of thought. I don't have anything to sell anywhere right now, so it doesn't matter. But like, I just worry about getting scammed. That I see so many horror stories, but I guess you have to really get in the right group. Like, I'm in a bunch of arcade groups that I frequent. I bought a few arcade games at times through these groups, which has been great. But that's something that you're not going to ship, so it's not like I'm getting scammed. I got to go there and pick it up, so it's a little bit different.
Okay.
Jesse says, I would have loved the store. I would have 80 pinball and stand-up machines in a store. Yes. See, that's the kind of shop like I would never leave. I used to have a shop in my straight up in my town. I would be there all the time, but they didn't have, it was really small. They didn't have much. If you had 80 pinball and stand-up machines and comics and whatever, dude, I would be there open to close on my day off. And my kids would probably be there too. Donna D's Nuts is super cringe, but I think that is with this community, the cringer, the better. So Bruce, you haven't seen Donna, have you?
No.
I have to see if I can get a picture here for you.
Okay.
I'm sure. If you haven't been watching my YouTube, then
I've watched in the past, but I haven't been keeping up recently. Like I said, I've been watching other things or
I don't know if you could see that shit.
No, it's not focusing. You could send it to me. I mean, if it doesn't show up.
Here.
Okay.
That's me with a wig. So that's Donna D's Nuts.
Okay,
but,
Donna D's Nuts.
Yeah. When you're done here and you got some time for yourself, just go on my channel. You see a few comic book community news things that you'll laugh out loud.
That's funny though. You got to mix it up, you know?
Yeah.
Is that like your arch enemy or?
No, there's just, you know what? It's a skit. It's like a new skit, like a broadcast thing. So it's me as a guy and then me as a woman. And we just bring out all the stupid shit that's going on in the community, from CGC and all their missteps to CBCS firing back at them to, I did one at New York Comic Con about interviewing dealers. And then I did one about the community, which I don't even know if you're familiar with, being out of comics for a little bit, is that there's some drama in the community about YouTubers going back and forth at each other. So I just kind of compiled like a montage of them yelling at each other.
There's a lot with Sticky Goose. I know that.
Yeah. Gold, his gold and silver rare are rare collection. At this point, average person is aware that books have some value, but they don't understand how it works. And that's the thing. Like, for me to spend money, so I'll give you another thing. Like, I bought a collection with a couple of dudes, and it was massive. We spent a shit ton of money, the three of us, buying it. When I say massive, I'm talking about every Silver Age key you could want.
Wow.
It was huge, but the three of us broke it down and spent a lot of money, but we made money on selling it. We blew it out in like a couple of shows that we did, gone in like 2 or 3 shows, and we made money on it. So I'm thankful for that. But I think that type of collection is like rare because you're buying from a collector. You're not buying for somebody who had the books forever. Like, you're buying from a collector who collected over time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is rare to find that. Absolutely.
Jeff says, really great hanging out with you all tonight. I just got home from work. I'm going to have some dinner. You all have a good Thanksgiving. Thank you, Jeff. Happy Thanksgiving, brother. Yo, Rod, what's going on, man? I hope you're doing well. Glad to see you back on YouTube, my friend. Donna is a star. That facial hair is sexy. What would you guys do if I shaved the beard? I don't think you would even recognize that it's me. That's the thing.
Right.
I thought about doing a skit as like Stone Cold Steve Austin or like The Rock. I thought, because I was a big wrestling fan, not only as a kid, as a wee kid. I'm talking about like Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage days, Mr. Wonderful, Rick Rude. But even then, again, as I was in college, like all Stone Cold and Rock and stuff. So I do a good Rock impression.
Yeah, Attitude Era.
Yeah, it was awesome. So I thought about doing a skit with that on the thing, but I don't know how people would handle that.
I don't think it would bother anybody. It'd be funny.
I think it would be funny, but people are. Then I get messages like focus on comics and shit like that. So it's weird.
Really?
Yeah.
Whatever.
So he's going live in a few. Subscribed, and I will jump in live soon, guys. Great show. I own Jesse James Comics, by the way. Thank you so much, Jesse. I got to check that out. I did not know that. Nice meeting you, brother. Rossetti 4444. I have most obtainable keys that I want that are in my niche, either raw or slabs. So I moved on to buying non-keys that I love. Generally slab, but also get a high grade raw. It's fun. I agree with you. Buy what you love. So let me ask you, Rossetti, what are we talking about? What is your niche? Excuse me. What is your niche that you're referring to? Is it Marvel? Is it DC? Is it superheroes? Is it horror? Manga, whatever it is. I'd love to hear about it. Phil, long time no see, brother. How are you? Nick, I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name. Love your videos. Nice change from some of the same BS everyone posts. I love that, brother. I love it. Nice to see a normal guy. Well, my friend's type of normal. I'm normal as they come, in my opinion. I'm a little wacky at times, but ask my wife. But yeah, like if you watch my interview with MJ that I did the other night, I think, and I'll say this to Bruce because Bruce took a break. He's taking a break from YouTube, but like I mean, it's hard. I'm not going to lie to you. When you have 2 young kids, forget it. I'm not even going to whatever, but anybody out there who wants to do YouTube, if you just want to have fun with it, just have fun with it. But at the same time, if you're not trying to get better at it, when I say get better at it, just push yourself into something that you're not comfortable with. Like for me, I'm always been a tech guy. So like I'm good with technology. So I had to teach myself how to use like a bunch of different applications. So the more you become comfortable with things, the more you're able to do. And once the more you're able to do certain things, the further you can push it. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Like for me, it was being in front of the camera. Like you had thrown out the idea of doing a live, whoever wanted to jump on. I've been the only person on here since you've gone live. But I mean, doing this before I started YouTube would have never happened in a million years. But I'm good with tech. Like I'm good with editing and stuff like that. Like I thought I was doing well with that. It was just, I was being in front of the camera and like, continuing on the conversation and what we were talking about at the time. And, I got this book in and explaining everything about it. It was just running out of ideas for me.
And that's where the hard part is, coming up with new stuff. So I have someone backstage that I don't know. So we're going to let him in. His name is Anthony. So hopefully he can introduce us to himself. Anthony, just don't like show any nudity or whatever. Other than that, we're good. What's up? How are you?
Phew. Thank you for saying that. I was about to be naked, but how's it going, guys? How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for joining us. Tell us a little about yourself.
Okay. Well, I've been a collector of comics since the mid 70s. I'm 57 years old, and I collected comic books as a kid. Spider-Man. I remember going down to the store, the 5 and dime they called it, which I don't know if anyone would know what that is.
So let me stop you right there, because I just mentioned when I was on MJ's channel that my dad owned a pharmacy when I was a kid, and I said it was more like a 5 and 10 store. So I know exactly what you're talking about, and I love those stores. So go ahead.
Yeah, I remember the spinner racks and everything, and I remember a time when I was poor as hell as a kid. I mean really poor. We didn't have heat and hot water in my house. And I'm not kidding you. I was on a swim team at the YMCA because we were so, my parents are divorced. My dad was so poor that in order for me to bathe, I was on a swim team. So I wouldn't bathe on the weekends, but 5 days a week I'd be able to shower at the Y. So like I'm not trying to, this isn't about feeling sorry for myself. This is just about the irony of what comics did for my life and how much they were back then. So my point is that I'd scrounge together $1 or whatever I could get from my paper route. And I would go to the store. I remember this. It was called Royal's Drugstore in Providence, Rhode Island. And I would get 4 comics for $1. And I would always get Spider-Man and Daredevil were like absolutes. And then I'd throw in two of, maybe like a Fantastic Four and whatever else caught my Iron Man usually would catch my eye. So I collected up until 1983, 4, when I became like a, senior in high school, and then I completely stopped. But from the time I was about like 12 until the time I was about 15, I actually collected like X-Men. I remember I bought like 20 issues of Burn X-Men in like pretty much near mint condition, very good condition for like $5 each or whatever it was. It was this huge deal where, I was like 13 and I had like $100 and bought 20 issues. It was like this huge haul. So anyway, long story short, about 2 years ago, I got back into the hobby. Maybe 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I got back in the hobby after 40-year absence or whatever. And I had moved around a lot, and whatever, my comics were in storage at a place in Oakland, California. And I got them out. I had one gray long box of comics. None of them were boarded. They were bagged, but they weren't boarded. So they were, floppy, but they were in pretty good condition. They were actually in really good condition. And I sent them into CGC. I made every mistake in the book. Instead of like going through which books I should send to CGC and not which books I shouldn't, I just took half my collection and sent it into CGC after getting it cleaned. Give me a sec, honey, okay? After getting it cleaned and I'm telling my daughter, give me a sec, 'cause I've never been on the show before. My 8-year-old daughter wants to come over and see what I'm doing. But anyway, so my point was this. I had the comics cleaned and pressed, and then how I found out about that was I went to a small comic show on Long Island at like a Veterans of Foreign War hall, and I saw a guy, and he does pressing and cleaning, and I didn't even know what that was. I mean, I was that green. I didn't know how that stuff, the CGC grading, all this kind of slabbing, I didn't know how that works. So it just was like, oh, I have some comics here, and so I gave him the comics. And he pressed and cleaned them, sent them off to CGC. I got back a ton of like 8.5s, and I would look at the comics, and they were like perfect, like literally flaw. It'd be hard. I couldn't find the flaw, but it'd be like 8.5. There was hardly any 9s, and then there was a bunch of 9.2s and 9.6s. But the point is that I really shouldn't have had these things slabbed. And it cost me a boatload of money. It wasn't really a good thing to do because they weren't that valuable. Slabbing for $50 when the comic's worth, you could sell it for $80. It's just not, financially worth it. So I had to I had to kind of go through my CGC, getting ripped off by a presser and cleaner, and then doing the CGC thing. I had to go through that lesson. I had to take that punishment. And it's funny because in life, you almost have to learn lessons. That and the tape pull lesson, right? Every single human being in comics knows the tape pull lesson, right? You have to go through it in order for you to get it. You can't, someone could tell you, oh, you got to be careful. You can't, if it has that white tape, don't take it out of the bag, take that tape off, use painter's tape, but you have to pull it off. And I had a Brave and the Bold. I forget what it was. It's the Batman cover with the House of Mystery, the Neil Adams cover, the famous one that, one of the most beautiful comics. And it was in a 9.0. And I bought it off Metropolis Comics, and then boom, tape pull, and the word "the" from Brave and the Bold is missing. So I was like, and so I went through that. So my point just being is this idea of coming back to the hobby and going through these two mistakes of like, well, 3 mistakes. One, getting books cleaned and pressed, that it's not really worth getting X-Men 129 clean pressed and sent to CGC unless it's like a 9.8 or something like that. So it comes back in 8.5. So I lose all the money there, and I shouldn't have gotten them clean and pressed, lost money there, and the tape pull. So I had to kind of go through all of these like mistakes in order to get to the point where I am now. A second thing that I think that I'll bring up that I find interesting about my journey, and I know that a lot of other people I think have had similar, is now the only thing that I'm interested in is horror. DC Bronze Age horror is my jam, my thing. Like that's what gets me out of bed. And I love it so much. When I was a kid, I couldn't care less about humor. I was Spider-Man, Iron Man, Daredevil on repeat. Spider-Man, Iron Man, Daredevil, Marvel, DC I didn't even think about it. I just wanted, superheroes. Now all I want is horror. So it's weird that I made this like shift later in life where all of a sudden I started appreciating a completely different genre than the one that I had seen that surrounded me as a kid, but I didn't even notice. So now that's all I've been collecting. And the thing that I was that I'm most fascinated by, and I'll end my rant in a second. I don't mean to be so verbose, but
Okay.
kind of introduce myself and talk about what's been going on with me. The thing that makes me the most curious is the idea that, which I know you've covered. So I was thinking to myself, if I bring this up on the show, it's almost like, hey, what do you think of Christopher Columbus landing in 1492? What are your thoughts about that? It's like, it's something that's been covered to death from 8,000 different angles, but I'm going to bring it up for the 8,001 time, not Christopher Columbus, but I'm going to be asking about like when the hobby hits that wall, because I have two kids, ages 12 and 8. And my 12-year-old is a really cool kid, really with it. I also collect like antique model little cars that are 143 scale cars from like the 1960s, like Corgi cars. He likes those. He thinks that's cool. But comics, he's like, it doesn't really get him. My daughter, who's 8, likes like Supergirl comics and Wonder Woman, and she does it to be with daddy, but she's not really into it. She's not like I was. So point being is there's going to be a clean break where the entire hobby falls off a cliff, a hard cliff that's not going to come back. I'm not talking about like Dave from Automatic Comics, who's 35, I guess, and loves Golden Age stuff. I'm talking about your 12-year-olds, your Gen Alpha kids who aren't interested in comics and are not gonna be interested in comics because they didn't grow up with them. And I'm not going to go over the 50 trillion reasons why they have to not be interested in comics. The point is we have clearly a shelf life. The cliff is coming. There's definitely going to be a time when that Neil Adams or Bernie Wrightson cover isn't going to matter to today's 12-year-old 20 years from now when they're 32 and I'm in my 70s. They're not going to want to buy that, but it's not going to mean anything to them. And even if there's few kids who like get it and for some reason like the hobby, which is great, it's not going to be enough to support a viable exchange. Whereas now we have millions of people like me and you guys and people who are like in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, all that sort of, scooped together can support the hobby. And if you put the Bernie Wrightson cover out in a 9/2 slab from Swamp Thing, they want that book. But there's going to be a time when no one is going to want that book. It's going to be like collecting coins or postage stamps or things that were like huge when my dad was a kid. And now who in the hell collects postage stamps? What 10-year-old knows even what that is? Whereas it was a major hobby when my dad was a child. It was one of the biggest things on earth, right? There were stamps that were worth, oh my God, hundreds of dollars in 1952 because it was it had President Abraham Lincoln was on the stamp. So my point is I did want to kind of bring that up, that whole notion of when the hobby is literally going to fall off a cliff and what your thoughts are about that.
So thank you, by the way.
Sorry about that.
No. You're good. You're good. You gave us a good background of who you are. My only response is I think you make valid points 100%. The one thing I'll say the difference, and I've heard this analogy before because my dad also collected coins and still does, believe it or not. But
yeah,
the one thing that like comics and comic related characters still have is everything else that involves them, not just comic books. We're talking about movies, TV shows, toys. A lot of kids are introduced to like Spider-Man. Forget the comics. You're introduced to that first because of the toys and stuff like that. So the more popular characters, I think, will go on because of those things, not so much comics. Eventually, the actual physical medium, they may go by the wayside if the modern comics don't take off with younger generation down the line. I agree with that. Vintage, I think the kids, and I don't know this for sure, it's speculation, but when kids see a toy on the shelf and they see it and they don't know what it is and they inquire about it and then they do find out what it is, they find out where that character came from, what's his backstory, what can he do, and then maybe when they find that out, they become interested in where he first appeared, all the stories relating to that character. That's my only thing. You're right. When I walk into my LCS, do I see kids? I do see kids, but they're not buying comics. They're buying Pokemon cards. They're buying sports cards. But I will say this: when I've set up at shows, comic shows, or when I've gone to comic shows, there are kids there dressed up as their favorite superhero. I did when I went to King. I was at King Con. There's a local show by me every year, and I set up there this year.
One, right? That's a really good one. That's
are you from the tri-state area?
I'm from Brooklyn, so I know like King Kong is the one. King Con is one of the ones that I've heard like you got to go to. Like that's an actual worth it convention.
It's a smaller convention, but it's all comics. There's nothing else.
That's what I want. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all, I was set up there last year and not the year before. Last year was my first time setting up there. And there was a young boy there with his dad. And that's part of it. Like when like I have a young one, you have a young one. Like I take him to me with stuff. He doesn't do that as much anymore, but he brought his young son and he was a big Spider-Man fan and he was trying to buy vintage Spider-Man comics. Wow. And to me, I thought that was great. So I gifted him an ASM 41 because I was trying to sell the show. It was really low grade. I'm like, you know what? Instead of getting $150 out of this book, this kid will appreciate it more and get him more into whatever. And he was already into Spider-Man anyway. But that's like the future, I think, of this hobby is like the father or even the mother in some instances passing that information on to a kid who may enjoy it. And like I said before about the toys and so on and so forth. I think the physical medium of modern comics 20, 30 years from now, I don't know what's going to happen. You're right.
I mean, I guess my thing is like, even though Spider-Man and Batman might survive, I always think about like horror. Like I collect who in God's name is going to collect a beautiful copy of Secrets of the Haunted House from 1975 with a Mike Kaluta cover. And like, it's this gorgeous comic that you and I would look at and go, oh God, I love that thing. My God, look how beautiful it looks in Mylar and it's brand spanking new and all this kind of stuff. It's so gorgeous. They're not going to care probably. And I'm not speaking against them or putting them down. It has nothing to do with that. It's more like, they have no connection to that. They have like, I collected comics. So what I changed was which kind of comics I like. I didn't adopt a new hobby. I just switched in terms of my focus within the hobby that I already had liked at one time. Whereas these kids, I mean, there might be some people that like Spider-Man. So the kids, 12 years old, I'm talking about like today, literally today's 12-year-old, today's average 12-year-old, which is like the high point of when I was a kid collecting comics would have been when I was 12, 13. That would have been my heart would pound as I would go into my LCS and see like, I don't know, Hulk #4 on the wall. I wouldn't even know condition or whatever. It's just, if you remember, I'm probably 20. How old are you, if you don't mind my asking?
I'm 47, but I had those same feelings, but I saw an ASM #1 on the wall and I was like blown away by it.
Yeah.
Back then when you probably could have had the book for like $300. Yeah.
Exactly. But you remember the feeling of going into a comic store and on the wall was filled with back issue old comics. Now you go in and it's just books. It's like anthologies and stuff like that. They might have a few books in one comics that are old in one like glass case section in like one part of the store, but it's not about, there's tons of toys. You're stepping over all kinds of like different books about comics and stuff and collections of like, the Neil Adams X-Men 57 to 65 series. Like it's that kind of stuff. It's not really like you walk in and you just see comics for as long as the eye can see, because that wouldn't appeal to them. That wouldn't draw them in enough. Like you have to have other bells and whistles. Whereas when I was a kid, it was just the comics. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think that maybe Spider-Man won't die, but who in the hell, like, who's going to care about a Bernie Wrightson cover of some horror thing that they don't even have any connection to whatsoever?
I get what you're saying, but at the same time, like, I've had that moment with my own son about walking in and he's like, oh, that's the first appearance or whatever. Oh, that's the first. So like, I think it's up to us, if you have children, to kind of show them those things.
Yeah.
So if the child doesn't know anything and they don't have parents who are into it, it's probably not, I mean, it still could happen that they get into it themselves, but they don't have anybody showing them what's going on. That's where the bigger thing is, in my opinion, because my son was like, oh, that's the first this. Oh, that, like, I did that. Like I said, teach him. And then we go to the next show, like, oh, that's that. Oh, that's that. But I also, to your point, like, If you go to a comic shop and you don't see vintage comics, that's not the greatest comic shop. I'm lucky to have a bunch of local shops in my area. Zap Comics being the best comic shop that I have ever been to, and I'm consistently there. They have consistently new stock of vintage comics, wall books, back issues, and then they have a giant wall of new books as well. Don't get me wrong. And they have toys, vintage toys. I was showing people before on the chat before anybody jumped in about some old NES games complete in box I got from them. So they have everything. So I really think it depends on the shop itself. And I know that really depends on where you live and what you have in your area. But I guess I'm lucky in that aspect to have good shops by me.
Yeah. Can I touch on something that you guys?
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely.
So you guys made really, really, really good points, and I could see and agree with either side. But going back to the idea of comics now, transitioning out of, I feel like there's going to be a point where comic books will not be printed anymore. Everything's going to be digital. I mean, you're seeing it with movies now. Movies are phasing out. Everything is going to Netflix and Hulu, and you can stream everything online.
You're seeing it with newspapers.
Yeah, so you're going to get to the point where comic books, the physical comic books, aren't going to be available anymore. Same with video games. Physical copies, there's not going to be any more of that. Everything is going to be digital. We're going into the digital age. So to say, I have a son, he's 3, he was on the show a little while ago. And I have another one on the way. They'll be introduced to these things, whether they like it or not. That's totally their decision. When I was growing up, my father collected G.I. Joe, Mego comics. So that's how I know about these things. And that's where my love came from them. So, I mean, that's a big thing. Not seeing kids, into comics and, at comic book shops. I've seen them before. I'm just hoping that we can continue it, and keep it going. I don't think it'll get to the point with stamps and coins. I don't think it will ever get to that point, but I think that, eventually there will be a downtrend of interest, but who's to say,
But don't
It's funny. My dad never collected comics at all.
Yeah, mine neither.
So I got into it on my own.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
one question I have though that I want to know from you guys is, what do you think of? Let's take a genre, horror.
Okay.
My genre now, like 20, 30 years from now, when I'm in my 80s. I probably will be so senile by then if I'm alive that I won't even care if who wants what. But I'm just curious about in all seriousness, who is going to care about, that Bat Out of Hell that writes and cover on House of Secrets that everyone is, such a beautiful issue. What kid is going to care about, for me, Bernie Wrightson is the greatest artist that ever lived. I adore the guy. I have everything from him that I can possibly collect. I love looking at his style. I just love anything with Wrightson. Right? I'm a huge Wrightson fan. Funny enough, I even was as a kid, but it was through a couple Wrightson, Batman's and a couple superhero things he did. I'm like, who is this guy? This is amazing. Everyone knew Neil Adams, and I love Neil Adams because it's how you can't not like Neil Adams. He's perfect. It's like a computer drew it. It's like he's like God. He's just perfect with his perspectives. But Wrightson was more long, stretchy faces, and he had his style. But I liked artists. When I was 13, because I remember in the comic book price guide, it would be issue 235 through 238 of whatever, what I'm just making this up. Aquaman would say Starlin-A, Starlin art. So 13-year-old me is who's Starlin? Jim Star. If they're mentioning him, this guy must be good, right? Because they're not singling out any other people, but Starlin, Wrightson, Adams, these guys keep getting mentioned. Miller. So I would be who, Frazetta, all this kind of stuff. So then I would go to my LCS and I would look for, again, I'm just making this up that the number, but I would look for Aquaman 236 and I'd be oh, there it is. And I would buy the comic and get home and check out Jim Starlin and his art. And I'd be wow, this is fantastic. This guy's really amazing. I want this in mint condition. I want to have a perfect copy of this. So I would go to shows and I would go to the Aquaman section and I would flip through until I got to 235 through 238. And if I found it, I was all stoked. My point is I was an art guy hunter of like, I wanted to collect my Barry Windsor Smith, my Neil Adams, my Bernie Wrightson as a 13-year-old. Even if the kids keep alive, like they like Spider-Man or they're still into the Flash or whatever, I totally get that. And again, I'm hoping to be wrong. I'm not trying to like, I want the future, the bleak dystopian future that I'm predicting. I want it not to happen. I want to be totally wrong and every kid to love comics and know who, Jim Starlin is. But my point is that I just don't, part of the function of our industry, right? Part of the reason why books are expensive, at least the books that I collect. I stopped collecting anything from after 1983. I don't even want to look at it. I literally look at like comics from the 90s and especially from the 2000s. They make my eyes bleed. I'm like that guy. And I don't mean to insult anyone that likes the Copper Age. And I'm sure that there were great books. And I know Deadpool and this and that and blah, blah. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying I'm one of these guys. I'm like your grandfather that just listened to like vinyl records or like, one of those kind of guys. It's like, nope, I stopped at, whatever Copper Age. I don't even look at those comics. I only look at comics from my childhood and before. So, which is, I understand I'm limiting myself and whatever, but my point being is if I'm like that and I'm artist driven, kids are not going to like. Part of our industry is the reason why a House of Secrets, whatever 195 is worth more than 191. It might be quadruple the prices because it was some like famous Wrightson cover and Neil Adams art is inside. Like take like House of Secrets 236 with the skull, House of Mystery 236 with the skull cover and the woman being about to be murdered and the skull coming up from the swamp. Like it's Wrightson art and Neil Adams on the inside. That book is a boatload of money. If you try to get that thing slabbed in a 9.2, that's like $700-800 if you can find it, right? But in 20 years, what kid is gonna? Yeah, it's a cool cover, and your kid will be like, "Oh, that looks cool." They're undeniable, but they're not going to care about the Wrightson Adams connection. That will mean nothing to them.
So let me stop you and just say this and we're gonna I think move on from this topic. Is that
no problem?
Everybody's got like their own personal preference. Like Bronze Age horror didn't get hot, honestly, until the last like 6 to 8 months. It's gotten really, really hot. Before that, pre-code horror had gotten really hot. And now ever since then, it has really cooled off pre-code horror. It's personal preference. People find attachment to things, whether at a young age, whether middle age, or even late stage. Like I always had affinity for horror growing up as a kid, like Fangoria, all those magazines, horror movies. I absolutely loved it. But in comics, I appreciate the art of pre-code horror, Bronze Age horror, whatever. But to me, as a collectible aspect, I've always stuck to things that I think have been more like you said, you didn't really grow up reading these comics, but you became attached later on. I only collect things that I was attached to as a kid. So that's where I think I differ. But I think everybody's different. So that's the only way I could answer your question. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, especially with those mediums where maybe they don't have a lot of fanfare now. Yeah, they are very niche. So it's like later down the road, do they fade out? I think people who appreciate good art, like you're saying, are always going to flock to books like that, because I myself, I'm a more of an art guy than I am a story guy, except for Spider-Man and Batman, because I will read those books and I will appreciate the art as well. John Romita is my favorite artist of all time. Yeah. So he got me in. He got me into reading Spider-Man. Yeah. And so I think it's up to that person. They have to be an art person. They have to be into that in order to get to those types of books. So for me to answer that, I have no idea, but I understand the point you're putting forward.
Can I move on to a completely different subject? Have nothing to do with this, not the future, just about today, about Comic Cons. I want to know what you think of this. When I go to cons, I'm always wondering, like, I had, when I was one of the cornerstone of my entire collection when I was a kid was, I remember it cost $60 and I bought it in Providence, Rhode Island, and it was X-Men 94 in near mint condition, right? And that was like the biggest book I'd ever bought in my life. And I had the book and I kept it, and it was bouncing between whatever storage and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, fast forward to about 3 years ago, I had it cleaned and pressed, and eventually the guy sent it to CGC to have it slabbed. It came back, and this is an unbelievable story. I bought that book, which came out in 1975. I bought it in 1979, so for like 4 years later. And listen to this. it came back an 8.5 restored. So not only was it not nearly as nice as I thought it would be, because I couldn't even find the flaws in it, but I guess with the under the loop, it had a couple spine ticks or whatever. But it seems like they really punished me on these. They loved the 8.5s. I got a bunch of 8.5s in these on these X-Men, but it also they had re-glossed the cover, and I was like, this wasn't like Action Comics number 5 or Batman, not even like 1. Like, let's be realistic, like Detective Comics 33 or something, like some like really valuable comic that's not maybe worth like $1 million, but is a very expensive comic. This was like X-Men 94 that was, but it was hot back in 1979 still. The Burn X-Men series was like very, very big, but someone had even the guy who pressed it was like, I can't believe that someone re-glossed a cover of a book that you've had for 40 years sitting in your. It's not like I just bought it yesterday and someone had like re-glossed it and touched it up. That I would at least, it'd be bad, but I'd at least get it. But in this case, someone in the 70s, I guess, sprayed gloss on the cover, because apparently the presser and cleaner was like, I couldn't get some stuff off, and I was wondering what it was. And then CGC sent it back in the dreaded purple label. So what's my question? When you go to these cons, like, I'm now wondering, like, what can I trust? Like, whatever I buy, I know if you love it and you just want to put it in your PC or whatever and stuff like that, it's great. But how do I know the guy didn't take a black felt tip pen and just like gently, like get out a couple spine ticks? Like, it makes me so uncomfortable. And I'm not like Mr. Slab guy, but there is a definite, at least someone's taking that black light or blue light or whatever the hell they're doing and looking it over and stuff like that. Like, what's your approach in terms of cons, knowing comic conventions, in terms of even knowing if you buy something off a guy, if it's been restored? Like, are you checking it out under the microscope as he hands it to you?
So the first thing is what I always tell people is buy from reputable dealers. And when I say reputable dealers, make sure you know who they are, make sure they have a presence, make sure people buy books to them without issue. That's the first thing. Number 2, I always recommend Instagram to people. I don't know if you're on Instagram, if you buy books off Instagram, but most of the big consignment pages, they're 100% money back. So if you do have an issue, they'll refund your money. But shows themselves, I mean, I've gone to enough shows where I know a lot of the dealers, so I know if I have an issue with a book that I could return it, they'll refund my money, or at least compensate me if I want to keep the book with a partial refund, something like that. That's the best thing I can tell you. If you don't know the dealer, me personally, I'm not buying it. The second thing I would add is do your due diligence in learning how to grade a book, learning how to spot restoration. That's harder. That's a lot harder. It comes with experience. I myself have missed stuff. It's very hard to tell if someone has just drawn in, like you said, like a little black marker on a book. Like, and you can't always pick that up. And I do think CGC now uses some type of AI to determine whether a book had been color touched or not. I have a story about this, which I'm not going to divulge yet because I'm going to do probably a video on it in a book I received back that somebody got from me that had some small amount of color touch. So we think there's a little bit of AI going on in the process right now, but I can't confirm that. So that's my best thing is do due diligence, buy from people who you know and who are trusted, who will give you a money back guarantee if there is an issue.
So the only this is my daughter, by the way. So
nice.
She's at my daughter's a big Wonder Woman fan. So I want to take say hi.
Hi.
Say hi. So
I was working down there at 4, and I was
my God.
over here at 4, and then I was
Oh, I love it. You're like, what's Daddy doing?
You wanted to come say goodnight to you guys.
Oh, I love it. My daughter did too. I'm gonna hop off here in a second. I just wanted to. I'd love to revisit this. I hope if you do this where guests can come on. Do you do it every few weeks or something? Or?
No, I don't do it that often, but every once in a while when I have it the next day off and I'm bored and I want to jump on and talk to people, I will do it. So make sure you just sub to the channel and you'll get a notification if I do something like this again.
Yeah, I love your content, and I really
thank you so much. I appreciate it
so much, and you're such a good guy and a good spirit, and it's like I really feel like you're rooting for us out there, and you're trying to help us out, and especially help us not get ripped off. And I just
absolutely.
I really love you for that. And I want to tell you, like, I'm a big, huge fan, and I don't miss an episode. That's why when I saw you, I'm like, oh my God, I can actually talk to him. I was like, I can talk to Dave. I'm going to do it. So thank you so much for doing this. And you can bet that the next time you do this, whenever it is, I will definitely darken your doorway or screenway again. So
Thank you very much. I appreciate you hopping on. Take care, Ant.
Take care, brother. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right.
Yeah, same with me.
There you
I'm
go.
going as well.
All right, but thank you for joining me, Bruce. It was nice seeing you. Don't be a stranger, all right, man?
Yeah, definitely, man. Thanks
all
for
right,
talking.
take care.
See ya.
Anytime. Well, there you go. Now it's just me, unless someone else wants to hop on. I'm probably going to stay on for a little bit longer and then make my piece. But listen, like that gentleman said, you got to be, especially now in today's market where there's so many books available for sale. Everything's available. Me and Swag talked about this last week or whenever it was that video came out. Every book you could want right now is on the market. So if there's a book that you've had your eye on, or there's a book that you've been dreaming about that you didn't think was attainable, and you have comics in your collection, you'd be surprised out there how many dealers are willing to sell or trade big books for books and cash. I myself pulled off a big trade at New York Comic Con. I have yet to reveal what that book is. I'm not going to for a while. If you're a member of the channel, you know what it is. If you watched at the mighty level, those are the only the members who got to see what that book is. But Izzy, if you want to jump on, my friend, you're more than welcome. Let me know. We're probably not going to be too long on here, but if you want to jump on, I'm more than welcome. I'm always here to answer you guys' questions. Like, yes, I enjoy doing YouTube. I think it's fun. It is a lot of work. I try to put my best foot forward in being entertaining and one up a lot of the guys out there and gals about, stuff. But another objective is just to give you my opinion on certain things, not always, but like that Hot 10 that comes out every week, man, a lot of those books I would never buy, never spend that kind of money on these books because they're a dime a dozen. And that doesn't mean I don't want to own a Voltron one. I would love to own the book, but I've said it before with that book is like I grew up with Voltron, one of my favorite cartoons of all time, and I'll rank them for you. Masters of the Universe is number 1, Thundercats is number 2, Voltron is number 3, Transformers is number 4. After that, it's kind of crapshoot. Maybe DuckTales. I used to love that show, and then NES game, by the way. Hooked on that game as a kid. But I got to tell you, man, everything is out there right now. I'd love to own a Voltron one, but I'd rather put that money towards some of the vintage toys. Bruce, was on the show talking about he's a vintage collector. You're better off putting your money in something like that than a Voltron number 1 from the comic, because people are more nostalgic about the toys than they are the comic. And I think you can be nostalgic over the book, but I'd rather be nostalgic over the toys and have some type of equity and knowing that I could sell those toys. Yes, the book is easy to sell. I'm not saying that, but I think there's more demand for those toys than there is for the book. So that's what I'm really trying to get the point across. Mark says, Lawrence, I want to congrats myself. I recently purchased a Batman 1 coverless, but it's mine. So yes, I saw that on your Instagram, Mark. Congratulations, brother. A lot of selling PC, saving, etc. made it happen. Collectors, it can be done with patience and due diligence. And see, Mark brings up a good point, is that he bought a coverless Batman 1. I own a coverless Superman 1. Sometimes it's just about owning a piece of history. At least that's how it is for me. And I'm sure it's like that for Mark as well. I love your avatar, Mark, the dog, because I'm a huge dog person. So he's very cute. Hope he's still with us. But yeah, it's, as a kid, as a young man, you dream about the characters. I always wanted to be Batman as a kid, even as an adult. I'm not going to lie to you. If I ever hit the lotto and I became a millionaire, a billionaire even, probably not a billionaire playing lotto, but I don't even play lotto. But if I ever hit a ridiculous sum of money, dude, I'm building a suit. I'm building a fucking Batmobile, Tumbler, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I'm going out. And that's how I'm going out. Okay. There's no question in my mind. That's what I'm doing. I don't have, spider powers. I would love to be Spider-Man. But that's not realistic. Batman is at least semi-realistic, right? I can make a suit. I can get a car. and I can fight crime with no powers. You just got to have the attitude. And that was me growing up. So to own a Batman 1, like Mark did, no matter if it's coverless or not, it's still worth it because it's a part of history and it's part of everybody's history, not just, the characters. And I've said that consistently. Oh, I got my man backstage, so I'm going to let him in. Before you say a word, I want to tell you your past couple of videos have been absolutely phenomenal, brother. So kudos to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That was just my attempt of taking something while I was on hiatus and say, how could I make the best of this? You know what I mean?
Dude, you could tell you put in a lot of work, and that's that's what I want to see. Like I mentioned before, like I don't want to one up other YouTubers, but like if you're not consistently getting better, like what are you doing? A lot of guys just come out here and they just talk in front of the thing, and that's great. But like I want to be better, and you've done that, dude. Your videos have been phenomenal lately.
Thank you, appreciate it. As I mentioned to you before earlier in the chat, we talked about this kind of stuff before, and like this type of things that we want to be able to do with our channel. After a while, you become stagnant, and like you with the comic community news, which I think is hilarious, and I got a little crush on Don. Don't tell my wife.
Everybody does. I hear more about Donna than I do about comic books these days.
It happens. It happens. But what it was, it's taking it to the next level, right? And still having fun with what you do, right? Because as you guys talked a little bit about, the marketplace, I'm a lot about the spec, what's trending. A lot of it's educating people on whether something's worth it or not. Also, the quick flip is a big deal because sometimes you could build these bigger. You could make a better collection with quick flipping. Sometimes, right? You get a book, you get rid of the book, and to get that other book that you want. And there's so many different avenues that you could do. And everybody has to go. Everybody has their own journey at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So that's how I look at it myself, being a guy that's like you. I've been doing this since I was a little kid. I've been collecting comic books since '87. That's when I got my first comic book. And it was a break, right? But I always kept myself in the know of what's going on. And, people crap on the modern stuff, but keep in mind, there's still an audience for that modern. When that audience is gone, that's when you start seeing the comics die, and not just the variant game, which I'm not a fan of the variant game myself, though I am guilty of buying variants because sometimes, man, those covers, man, they just sell to
you. I agree with you, man.
You know what I mean? They sell to you.
I don't know if you saw my stream with Mickey Swagos, but he made a great point on that video, is that there are collectors that are new collectors out there who don't want to, or don't know enough, or don't want to jump into the vintage aspect of it because they're afraid. And it's a lot easier for them to buy these type of, exclusive books and variant covers because they're inexpensive. There's a lot of hype built around this stuff. They're able to make a profit if they buy a certain book at a certain price. So they're easing into the collecting, on these books, and then maybe once they're comfortable, they can go in and start doing other things. So I do think there is value after hearing that. I think you made a great point to this day. And I'm like you, I like some of the covers. I bought a Masters of the Universe cover when I was at Terrificon. That was absolutely beautiful. I could not turn the thing down. It was only $20, but I'm like, you know what? Where am I going to see this again? So I get it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, buy what you want. FOMO is definitely a thing, but you have, at the end of the day, it's your money. It's how you treat it, and you have to be wise at the end of the day, right? This week alone, today, there was a lot of books that people were going for. Like, there's tons of first appearances going on today of new books, new releases, right? And who knows, right? As far as I know, most of those first appearances won't mean diddly squat, right? But when Miles Morales first showed up, it wasn't nobody gave a rat's ass about Miles Morales, right? Now he's this generation Spider-Man. Us older guys, we may not like saying that, but I talk to my girls. that's their Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? And he's the perfect example of a character that is breaking the barriers, I guess you could say. Now, it doesn't always work, you know. It's very rare, but I think in order for the industry to continue, we have to keep the books relevant in some way. You get what I'm saying? For once the last book is sold, I mean new book, it's gonna start then dying out.
So
And
I
the
have
only
a
people that
question
are
for
gonna
you.
care is gonna be collectors.
So listen to this point, because this is what every old school reader, fan of a character is going to tell you what is going to come out of my mouth right now. Why do they rehash characters? Because that's the biggest gripe from all us OG collectors, is that they rehash Spider-Man, which to me, I think Miles Morales is a new character. Yes, he has some of Spider-Man's, Peter Parker's powers, but it's a totally different character. But why do they reinvent Batman? Like, so I've seen guys destroy Absolute Batman, this story. And I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I enjoyed it.
So like, but I agree to him. Like, that wouldn't be my Batman. Doesn't mean I wouldn't enjoy the comic. It's not a good story. That's not what I'm saying, because it could be. And I haven't read it yet. So, because I can't get my hands on one.
I got plenty. We'll talk later.
Yeah. A lot of the gripe people have is that why do they have to change what many people believe to be their version that they grew up with? That's what I think the big gripe is. It's not that whatever. I just think they even the new characters that do come up with seem to be rehashes of old characters.
I agree. I definitely agree that they're all derivative, right? My honest opinion is that, especially when it comes to the big two, they don't care as much. They're owned by a giant corporation, you know, Marvel by Disney, Warner Brothers Discovery by DC, right? They don't care. As long as they have something that they could grab to put in a movie. Because that's where their money is lying in, right?
Yeah.
Their money is coming from the movie, and this is cash cow now to them, which hurts us, the true fans that have been collecting since we were kids. Where there was a time that it wasn't about a movie. It was only based off of, imagine if there was a movie, how would you do it? Or, you know, they're talking, you know, this when we were kids, we used to talk about when they're gonna make a Spider-Man movie. And I remember it was like a 20-year thing, right? To finally get to that point. And then when we get it, we were happy, but we were still upset because it wasn't fully Peter Parker, because he had organic web shooters. Like, what's up with that?
I remember people going crazy when they heard about that he didn't have, you know, made web shooters.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, people ended up liking the movie, and part 2 is one of the best Spider-Man movies ever. You know, so
well, to me, like, if you're gonna do a comic book accurate movie, you gotta pull storyline from the comics. If you're not pulling a storyline from the comic, don't even waste my time, because it's not worth it.
And that's part of what's going on today. I think I think the companies, the corporations have finally reached a point that they're not being able to pull the stories, and they're trying to go their own path. Thus the reason why something like the Eternals was garbage to me. I did not like the Eternals. I didn't like the way they did with Icarus. You know, it's like, why weren't they involved in the whole Infinity War? Well, they had to. They were sworn to secrets. Like, come on, don't give me that BS, right?
But it's also with Eternals. We touched on it earlier in the conversation, how like when the non-comic book collector goes to the movie theater, they don't know who the fuck the Eternals are, so they're not going to the movie theaters. That's the point. They know who Captain America is, they know who Iron Man is, they know who Spider-Man is, they know who Batman is, so they're going no matter what. Those laissez-faire fans, they're not going to see the Eternals.
Well, that's where we are right now, that the secondary characters are getting front and center, to the point that they're going to try to go do Secret Wars and I guess do a soft reboot. It's the same reason why DC Studios now exists, and they were to do another reboot of a DC universe that was floundering. I was never a big fan of the Snyderverse personally.
Neither was I. I'm going to tell you when it killed it for me was that Batman vs Superman. That movie was awful. If they had just really done The Dark Knight Returns instead, like word for word, that movie would have done well. What they tried to pull off that movie was just pure garbage.
Yeah, and I'll be the first one to say it. I was not a crazy fan of Man of Steel because
Yeah,
to
well,
me that was a Superman that was not the Superman that I know. But
I
I
agree.
was
Christopher
like,
Reeve is Superman. He's the only Superman there'll
yeah,
ever be, in my opinion.
and I could accept that, and I could accept Henry Cavill. Like Henry Cavill, I'm fine with. Like the
Yeah.
actor, he did the part that was given to him. I think what Zack Snyder did was, let me see if I could turn the Justice League into the Watchmen, and that's where he screwed up. You get
Yeah.
what I'm saying? DC was never about being dark. In fact, DC was always the light. You know, where Marvel was more of the urban flair. That's why many people gravitated to Marvel in the 80s. In the 80s, everybody bought Marvel. Though a lot of people don't know this, but no one bought DC Comics. It was really
Yeah.
hard to buy a DC comic. The only time you bought a DC comic is if there was something major going on, and even that was hard. You know what I
What
mean?
years
So
you talking about?
which year?
Yeah.
I'm
What
talking
years are
about
you talking about?
the 80s in general.
See, to me, that's when I read my most DC, because like I've said this before, like I had access to Marvel and DC because my dad owned a store. I read the most Batman in my life in the
Mhm.
80s. And to me, I love 80s Batman.
Yeah.
To me, like that's when the best Batman stories were.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you look at the Dark Knight trilogy, they didn't pull really much from the comics, but they were still
No,
good films.
they were good films because Christopher Nolan knows how to make a good movie.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. The guy's a genius when making movies,
Yeah.
right? So, and he did take it and put it in the direction that we accepted. We accepted his direction because if there's any character that's diverse, that's more diverse than any other character, it's Batman. You could do any type of Batman and it works. Why? Because we got 67 Batman, and we got Dark Knight Returns Batman, and we got Tim Burton Batman, and we got Brave and Bold Batman. And for some reason, we accept them all. So you could pretty much do any type of Batman, and most people will be okay with it.
I think as long as the backstory remains the same for Batman,
Mhm.
if they try to fuck around with his backstory, like that's what makes Batman who he is. I've always deferred to Frank Miller's Batman because that to me is what I grew up with. That's what I wanted to see. Like the vengeful, the old, he don't give a shit. You took
Yeah.
my life away from me and now I'm going to come after you. I don't care if I die. That's my Batman. And that's what I grew up with and that's who I want because that's how I just felt as a kid. I was the same way. It's like I was just very angry and that was you know?
And I love it. Like Tony in the chat's talking about Starlin Detective Comics. Yeah, absolutely. Jim Starlin's one of my favorite writers. You know, Infinity Gauntlet, Warlock. I'm a huge Warlock fan. You can probably see right.
I know.
Yeah,
I like your setup. Your setup looks really good.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Again, same thing. I want to have something that's worth watching. Like if I want to watch it and stuff like that, but at the same time, I want to be able to create things that I want to create, but I also want to improve on that instead of just staying in the same field. I just can't.
So if anybody's watching this now or on the rewind and you don't sub up Izzy, make sure you do because he's putting out some incredible content, some hot comic content, some spec content. If you're into that stuff, I would love to be into the spec thing. I just don't know enough where you know a lot. So now I'm starting to watch more of your new stuff that you're putting out. So maybe I can familiarize myself a little bit more. But if there was, give my audience a little bit of a taste of like, if you were to buy one modern book right now or in spec on, what would it be?
Well, right now it's as you said it, Absolute Batman.
Absolute.
Anything that says the word absolute is fire right now. And when I mean fire, I mean it is going off the shelves. People are absolutely eating it up. It is the ultimate universe for DC Comics. That's what it is. It's DC's answer to the ultimate universe. So there's that.
I was going to say, do you care that? I mean, I have read a little bit of it, and I've saw snippets online. Do you care that they've changed things a little bit? Do you think old school fans are going to be annoyed? They also have 4 million printing of this book already.
Yeah.
Do you think that makes a difference?
The print run, we're at the 4th printing now. It's already been considered the highest selling comic book of the year. So there's plenty. Don't overpay for Absolute Batman. I'll tell you that much. What I will say is this. You take it the way you want to take it. It is a different version of Batman. This is a Batman who is not rich. He's actually middle class, right? But we've done that before. This is an Elseworld take on a Batman, and that's what I mean by the versatility of Batman more than anything. I meant to say versatility as opposed to diverse, but the versatility of Batman is he's a character that you could take those chances with. It's Scott Snyder understands Batman mythos. You get what I'm saying? And by understanding the Batman mythos, he's tweaking it for, I guess you could say, this audience. What he's not doing is he's not giving us the same cookie cutter Batman that we're used to. And I think that's why it's gravitating. Just like a year ago with Ultimate Spider-Man, this new Ultimate Spider-Man, this is a Peter Parker that got married to Mary Jane and has kids. This is the Peter Parker that we were growing up with, right? And that's probably Marvel's big problem with Peter Parker. They don't want him to age up. They want him to stay at a certain age. They want to keep him at that age. Now there's an edict that he can't get married to Mary Jane. They could be a couple, but they can't get married because that makes them too old. I think this is the perfect time to allow Peter to grow, because now we have Miles. Just like we allowed Dick Grayson to grow to become Nightwing, right? And we have 101 different Robins. Pick and choose which Robin. I'm a Tim Drake fan myself, but and same thing with like Flash. For many people, it was Barry Allen. I'm a Wally West guy. I love Wally, right? So when you allow a character to grow up, I think it helps.
It's evolution, right? It's the evolution of the character. Eventually, that character has to move on and do something else. Only so many stories you could do, which I get. I do. I don't really see in hindsight, like Rossetti's saying that it's hurting Spider-Man. I don't think that's the case, because Spider-Man eventually has to evolve. But I understand people saying he has to be a certain age. I understand why the company thinks he has to be a certain age, and and only pertains to Spider-Man because he is the character that's going to get children into comics, because he is a kid as well. You know what I mean? So if you have him grow up and you have him do all these adult things, you have him get married, you have him have kids, you're taking that child aspect away from the kids getting into comics. Now maybe they're not interested in that, so I understand the trepidation.
Yeah. At the same token, I think the problem today that didn't exist in the 70s, I'm going to say the 70s, because I think in the 80s is when it started, right? 80s kind of started that thing, was that the timeline in comic books was just there. There was no, this is 1972, this is 1973. It was all within that same time frame. Now, granted, you have to progress it somehow, right? So eventually he went from being in high school to being in college, right? But if you really look at it, dude, he was a super senior in college. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And that's where they don't understand. They're speeding up the timeline instead of slowing down that timeline, which they knew how to do back then. Now they don't know how to do that. Now they're just like another progression on top of another progression on top of another progression. And that's aging the characters in a rapid pace, to the point that if you look at it, both Marvel and DC, now there's like kid versions of almost every character. They're literally like, obviously Batman always had kid versions of Robin, right? So that always existed for Batman. But Wonder Woman, you got her daughter now, Trinity. Superman has his son, Connor. I forget Kal-El. I forget her name. I know Connor, but that's the other one. But yeah, and to Colossus' point, Colossus Collector, I love you, boy. All the X-Men grew up. Kitty Pryde grew up. She was allowed to grow up. But Jubilee's still pretty young. You know what I'm saying? And
the one thing I was going to start to cut you off, but the one thing I'm going to say, it's one thing to have a character progress in life because that's normal. It's another thing to take away what the character is. And I think by making Batman a middle-class person, you're taking away what Batman is. And that is his choice that he makes, right? Mm-hmm. Being a billionaire, any normal billionaire would walk right the fuck away and not be bothered with anybody. Yeah. But the fact that he makes the choice to defend his city and to do all the things that he does and fight crime, that's what makes Batman Batman. So if they're taking that part out of the story, I get what you're saying. He's Batman in a different universe and it looked at from a different way. But to me, that's not Batman, because what makes Batman is the choice that he makes to do that.
Yeah. And he still has that. What I do like about Absolute Batman right now is that he still has that moral fiber in him. He won't kill, even though he's pretty damn close to it. You know what I mean? But he won't kill. He likes doing everything non-lethal. And the way Scott Snyder put it, he's Batman AF. In fact, that was going to be the original title that he had in mind. And DC is like, no, we can't do that. And then he still managed to put it in an issue 2. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? His approach to this Batman was to make it as ridiculously bigger as possible, to the point that we got a freaking Batman with a battle axe that comes out of his chest, which when you see it in comics, it's actually pretty damn cool. You know what I mean? And he's smart. So he's an engineer. He studied the city. So he pretty much has the elements of the same Bruce Wayne. The only difference is he's not rich. He's a middle-class citizen. And it's a different take on it without touching the moral fiber of the character, the mythos of the character. He still has a parent who dies, not both. One dies. It's interesting, and it's partially his fault too, as well. Partially, he takes the blame for what happened. It's definitely worth a read. If you don't like it, then you can do like anybody else. Don't read it anymore. You get what I'm saying?
Why do you think the book has been so hot? Why do you think they were going to a 4th printing?
They're going to a 4th printing.
I don't think it's a story.
No, it's actually a pretty decent story. I don't think it's a great story.
I'm not saying that it's not. I'm saying I don't think that's the reason why it's being bought in why it's in high demand. Why do you think it is?
It's in high demand because it's a fresh take on something. It, like everything else, I would say give it about a 3-year period, and then it'll start leveling out. But right now they're at this all-time high where you could tell that the creative team behind it are enjoying what they're doing. And when they are enjoying what they're doing, you're getting a good quality work. You know what I mean? I think with Wonder Woman, it's there. With Wonder Woman, it's there. With Superman, Superman's pretty interesting as well. I'm curious to see what Martian Manhunter looks like in Flash, and then ultimately Green Lantern, which is the next books that come up. And I think a lot of that is similar in the Ultimate Universe. However, in the Ultimate Universe, I think certain books they're not performing as well. Besides Ultimate Spider-Man. And right now there's a little bit of buzz with Ultimate X-Men because we're going to finally get a new Ultimate Wolverine who has a muzzle. So, which is kind of interesting to me. You know what I'm saying?
It's interesting, but how well is that going to go over?
Right now there's buzz. There's definitely buzz. But again, like everything else, I always say there's a 3-year period. After that 3 years, you know, it's like the 7-year itch in marriage. I think there's a 3-year itch when it comes to new comics.
What is the first print of Absolute Batman going for? The A cover. What is it
cover
going for
A? Last I checked, it was going for a fair market value of $40. Last I checked,
not too bad.
No, and you could probably easily pick it up for like 20. I'm sure you could probably pick it up at 20. There's just, you want to get cover A of the book. I'll tell you right now, slab is going for like $140. This is a book that's not worth buying in the slab. $25 right now. So it's actually that's where you're seeing it. $20-$30. And I'm sure you can find a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I'm sure if I go to a show or something, somebody's got to have a copy somewhere.
Yeah, they sold. I think they're at the 4 million mark or something like that. Last I saw.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That's crazy.
And in this day and age, that doesn't exist.
I know that's the next thing, right? This book is printed to death now, even though they're going to 4th print. It's way too much for.
And those printings are still selling. They're still selling.
Yeah. Does that worry at all that they're going that many? Remind me of the 90s.
Oh, it does remind it. No, the foils remind me of the 90s. It doesn't worry me as a reader. It worries me as a collector. You get what I'm saying? So if they're
Yeah.
going to multiple printings, that means more people get a chance to read a story. And that's what keeps this hobby alive. Because people buy books for the art, they stay for the story.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
That's why the X-Men were so hot in the 80s. Because Chris knew how to write them.
Yeah, I know. What about vintage now? Like, are you looking for anything vintage? What do you see vintage that's hot outside of what I'm seeing? Like,
When it comes to vintage, I think what was his name? Mark. The horror stuff is pretty famous. People like horror right now. I'm starting to see a little bit of an intake of war comics. People are starting to like more war comics, not as much as the horror books, but the war comics like Sergeant Rock, probably because Daniel Craig is rumored to play Sergeant Rock.
yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
So a little bit of that. So the Joe Kubert books are always, good books. Sergeant Fury, the Howling Commandos, that kind of stuff. So I'm seeing those books growing a little bit. But as far as the older books go, when you go into when you go to Cover Price, which I go all the time, monster books are hot. And I mentioned this in the chat, the nostalgic books, the G.I. Joes, Transformers, again, because of stories driving those books, people to go back to the old books and things like that.
You're talking about the new books, the new books you're talking about coming out and then driving them back to the old ones.
Yeah, the new books are making people want to go back to the old books.
Yeah,
which I like that. You know what I mean? That keeps it alive to me because we have to keep the new books alive in some way. If they're not alive and they die out, then trust me, this is all going to be gone after a few generations. So, but I won't be around, so it won't matter to me. you know what I'm saying?
Say too. Like I'm the same thing. I won't be around here either. So let whoever worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like at the end of the day, when I pass along, my collection goes to my girls, right? They do what they want with them, and trust me, if it's like any other story of families I've heard, they just want to get rid of the collection.
Yeah,
see, they can make a couple of bucks out of it.
Exactly. Like I think that's why I kind of dwindled everything down. I don't want to be leaving all this shit to everyone because I don't think they'll see the value that I see the value in it. And same, I'm sure, for you.
Yeah, and it was about the hunt for us. I think the hunt was more important than the cost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the hunt is definitely fun. It's the best part of doing it, right? And when you don't have anything to hunt for anymore, it becomes like, oh, why am I doing this? So I agree with you. Like the hunt is really, really fun. But like, I really like just remembering shit from like the first time that I remembered as a kid and like having things that I used to have and having those things have meaning to me. Like that brings me joy.
Yeah. So, I got that ASM 300 right there, which was one of my very early comic books. That's like a 4.5. Yeah, it's 4.5, right? But it's one of my first comic books. It's the actual comic book that I picked up from the newsstand. I got it from a newsstand. I read the crap out of that book. And the nostalgic for me is not so much the slab. I got it slab because, the key significance of it, right? But the reality of it is, if you ever go back to that book and you read it, it's bonkers, man. It's one of those stories that, David Michelini, who wrote it, he made Venom the worst. You know what I mean? Like Eddie Brock was a bastard. And the things he was doing, not just to Peter, but everybody around him, there's this two-page panels, right? Where Black Cat approaches him and he beats the crap out of her. And it's like, you can't pull that off today. That's the kind of beating that he gave her. Like there's a scene where he hits her so hard, her face hits the wall, and you could see her face like just like that. And that's what Todd was doing the story, right? That's what made Venom such a scary character, because when you were reading it, he was one of those characters that you look at, it's like, how the hell is Peter how is he gonna beat this guy? He has all of his strengths none of his weaknesses.
Well,
Peter
that was the
can't
whole
detect
point.
them.
That was the whole point. He was Spider-Man, except like insane and like huge and like powerful. Everything that Peter wasn't. He had the same powers though.
Yeah, and then Peter couldn't defend himself because he couldn't do it. All the powers he had didn't work on him, right?
Yeah.
So the spider sense didn't work on him. So they did an anti-Spider-Man because that's what he really is, an anti-Spider-Man.
He's Bizarro Spider-Man, 100%.
He's bizarre. Yeah, they created an anti, and it made him that he was undefeatable, and that's what was intriguing about him. Then after a while, he gained that popularity. They turned him into an anti-hero. I'm not a fan of the anti-hero version of Venom.
Neither am I.
I like the jerk Eddie Brock. That's my personal favorite. But he became that popular. Same thing with Deadpool. They became that popular that they turned them into anti-heroes because Deadpool was a villain too. So
I never read Deadpool growing up as a kid. I got to him. I didn't get back into him till like the mid 2000s, where I started going to my LCS and say, all right, let me see what this is about. And that's where I started to get into it. I had a whole run from like 1 to like 40 something or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Those are actually really good, but the new shit now I tried to get into, I can't even read it.
Yeah, it's at the point where he's a parody of Deathstroke. That's all he was. That was the original intention. And Rob Liefeld likes to take a lot of credit for Deadpool. Nah, he didn't really do much. You know what I mean?
Really?
It was mostly Joe Kelly. The Deadpool we know was Joe Kelly working on it. He created, Rob Liefeld made the look. He made him wisecracking, but not to the extreme level. It wasn't until Joe Kelly's run where he made him break the fourth wall. He turned him into, this cancer-driven character. So he had some heart. Back then he was like a jerk too. But people liked his look. They thought it was cool. Rob Liefeld was hot at the time as well, and all these guys, man.
I was never into Liefeld. That's one of the guys from the 80s, early 90s that I just did not like his shit. I mean, between McFarlane, I loved Jim Lee, even Eric Larson. To this day, Eric Larson is one of my favorite artists of all time. But I couldn't get into the Savage Dragon shit. But I never got into Liefeld. I don't know why.
No, I get it, and I think with Liefeld, he was one of those guys that he did the absolute best that he could with the least amount of talent. But he is talented because he's talented enough. He's talented enough to hide his weaknesses in some weird way. You get what I'm saying? And he had Todd telling him, "Hey, do this instead of do this." The whole smoke and everything. That's from Todd. Todd would say that it's like, if you can't draw a foot, just draw smoke covering the foot, and it worked.
Do you ever watch Todd? He does these lives sometimes. He just
I was present.
It's fucking unbelievable, man. Just watching him just go to work from nothing, just from his head. It's just like, and it's so detailed. I'll show you what he does, and you think he's done it, and then all of a sudden he adds this entirely new level of detail. I'm like, holy shit, unbelievable.
I honestly think he has some level of ADD.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
But what Todd is, he's a spokesman. He's a spokesman for a generation. I would say he's the liaisons of the older to the newer, right? So you had the Neil Adams, the gentleman earlier, Bernie Richardson, those guys, right? John Burns, all those guys from the 70s going into the 80s. Todd is the liaisons from that 80s, 90s period till today's Art Germs and those guys. Dan Mora, who's extremely talented. Jorge Jimenez, and those. I think he's that guy that puts it together. He puts it all together because he understands that in order for this industry to strive, you got to keep on working on the industry. If the industry, when he was in New York Comic Con, he said one of the things that he wishes about Image is that they have more books with longevity. Most Image books don't go past 50, and he's right. He could probably name them with one hand how many books have hit that 50 mark. And the reason why he says 50 is the magic number is because Then you have what's called a condemned. Well, not an omnibus, but why is the word not coming up? Condemned.
Commendium. I don't even know if that's
Yeah. It's something like that. It's technically an omnibus, right? Let's call it what it is, and that will continuously sell. Thus, thank you, Jesse. So the book that really has stood the test of time in that way, in Image, has been The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Where it's still the trades outperforms the comics, even though they stopped doing it and they decided to do the deluxe edition, which is the color pages, which I don't care for, but it continues that flow of money for them, and he wants to see more of that within Image Comics. I think he might have a chance with the new Energon universe that's going on. Again, Robert Kirkman doing a thing where he could. Robert Kirkman. Some people like him, some people don't, but the guy can write.
Yeah, absolutely, no question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I think what the comic industry needs is some fresh ideas, and not just using current characters to come up with fresh ideas. I like to see some new characters take stage. Someone come up with something unique that no one's ever seen before. It's difficult, but it makes me appreciate all the shit that Stan and Jack and Steve did back in the 60s, and that the guys from the late 1930s came up with. It's quite amazing, and I don't see that anymore. And I think that's part of the reason why comics struggle at times. The new comics,
I agree,
because we're not.
The passion's gone.
Yeah,
it's just another project for some of these people, right? To Tony's. I mentioned two names in that list. Dan Mora is somebody that I will keep my eyes peeled because he does covers and interiors, and his interiors are amazing. He has this nice Silver Age style to his look. And then Jorge Jimenez is another one that does both. The guy who's currently doing Absolute Batman, Nick Dragotta, he's also doing both covers and interiors. So those are guys that I have much respect for because they're doing the interiors. I like the cover artist guys. I think they're great. They're talented. What lacks is that interior talent. Being able to do sequential art. I'm tired. I get tired of pinup at the pinups, which a lot of these books have become, and that's why they get slabbed. By the way,
because you think that's the reason? That's part of it. That's the reason why popular covers are so hot and on demand, because they get slapped. They get slapped because people want to put them up in their walls so everybody can see it. You get what I'm saying? So that's why 340 is so hot. 340 is not the first time these two fight each other. No, I know, but why spend the extra money? Like there's like literally 1 million copies of that book out there. Why pay up for a graded copy when you could find a raw copy that's probably in similar shape for 2/3 of the price?
People don't want to do that. Some people just want to have the book the way it is. They want to prove that grade, even though I think for a lot of us old generations, I don't think the grade ever mattered. Like I said, that's a 4.5, man. This book right here, that's a 4.5 you got there. It's slabbed because I know its significance in time. You get what I'm saying?
I agree. It is just a number at times. It assigns value. It assigns dollar value. It doesn't assign any other value.
Yeah. So I could sell the book at a 4.5 grade. Not worth that much, to be honest with you. Probably less than $100 at that current. But it's my copy. It's the copy that I went to the newsstand. I had to pass by the nudie books to get to that book in the newsstand in my neighborhood. And then I picked it up. I read it inside out. It is beat up. I did get it pressed, right? I did get it pressed so that I could get some of the dents out, but I couldn't get rid of all of it. And I was very satisfied with my grade.
Well, here Jesse brings up a good point, and he's talking about cover artists as opposed to interior artists. But you think, back in the day, these guys weren't making a ton of money drawing books. They had to come up with creative ideas and creative characters.
Yeah.
You think because these guys are making a ton of money is the reason why I don't want to say mail it in, but why they haven't come up with anything extremely creative?
Are you referring to the cover guys or just the
For
creatives?
anybody in general, I'm talking about new characters and stuff like that. Do you think the money aspect is a reason why they haven't done that, because they don't have to do that technically?
I think, and I've had this conversation with someone before. I think money has something to do with it, but in a different way. I believe it's because of creative control that now exists as a result of Image. So there was always creative owned comics, even before Image. But what Image did is they popularized it.
Yeah.
They made it, hey, we could do this, right? And that's what I think that's what happened. That's why you don't see good new characters anymore. And like I'll use really hot series is Image Comics Ghost Machine. Ghost Machine is a subdivision of Image, right? It's still Image, but Ghost Machine is like their own little world, kind of like when Rob Liefeld created Extreme or Wildstorm with Jim Lee. It's the same kind of concept where it's a series of writers and artists that put themselves a label, then they call that label Ghost Machine. I do believe it's a universe that they created, but all those books are owned by the creative team. Marvel and DC still owns the properties, right? Yeah. So if I'm Marvel, I want all my money for this character that's being created. So I'm as a creative, mostly a writer, really not so much the artist, even though some artists will be creative in that way. They say to themselves, well, why am I going to give you this amazing idea and you're taking everything from it? I'll just do what James Tynion does. I'll make my own thing, something killing the children, and I get the royalties. I make the money when it becomes a TV series. I make the money, right? Marvel DC can't do that. That's why we're getting these derivative characters, right? Just today they debuted Hulkette, right? That's her name, Hulkette. It's stupid name.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, but that's what keeps happening. It's the same reason why we got a Miles Morales. Miles Morales was originally that. But then something happened with Miles that there was something about Miles that was like, you know what, people, the first few years when Miles came out, no one really liked him. It was after a while, and I think it has a lot to do with the movies as well, when they were doing it, when Sony had to figure out a way to have Spider-Man without giving MCU that kind of money. That's where Miles comes in. He's one of the very few. Spider-Gwen, again, another derivative character. It's a character that spawns off of different characters, an alternate version of a same character we know. Look at the characters that are being created today, and they're all attached to a prime character. Most of them are not original ideas because the creatives are not providing those original ideas to the big two. They're holding on to them so that they do write for DC and Marvel so that they could get that name recognition, so that they could go to Image or Boom or IDW and say, hey, look, I got this great idea. And all they do is just publish it for you. They put the money down so they could make the thousands of copies, right? And they throw in some superstar artists as a cover and stuff like that. That's what's happening today. And that's why the indie books are starting to outperform in readership. Not in sales, but in readership.
Is there any independent right now that you find that a title that is really good with a really good character that it's new?
Well,
that you recommend?
Well, for me, I think I just recently read this. It's only in this first issue, the Rocket Fellas, which is kind of like Lost in Space / Fantastic Four / Time Cop element to it. It's pretty fun. It's the artist by Francis Magipol, who's doing double duties. He's doing covers as well as interiors. He did Flash for a while, which I loved his Flash back then. He's writing it with Peter Tomasi. That's pretty fun. Ghost Machine Geiger is another one. Jeff Johns is doing it also. And again, there's a lot of the Ghost Machine stuff has been really hot lately. That kind of stuff. James Tynion, Department of Truth. People love Department of Truth because of the conspiracies behind it. Hey, what's going on, my man?
Hey, girl. Hey.
Right. So stuff like that has been hot. as far as creator-owned titles. Those are the books that seem to gravitate to a lot of people.
Why not if I was Marvel or if I was DC, why not let a fan write? Somebody who's a lifelong fan. Like I could write the shit out of Spider-Man. I could tell you that right the fuck now. Let me write that shit. Give me a shot. Give me one issue. And I guarantee you I could bring the love back to Amazing Spider-Man because that title is garbage right now.
I think they're doing that on purpose.
Why?
I think it's Sony. It's the same reason why they were doing it to X-Men.
Oh, you think they want to lose the property?
I think
Want them to lose the property? That's crazy if that's the case.
I could see that being a thing. They don't treat Spider-Man with the same love as they once did.
I know.
He's
Ricky,
a flagship title. What's up, Ricky?
Chilling, listening to. I heard indie books, and I was like, "Babe, go to bed. I want to be on my computer."
Where you been, man? You've been MIA. Everything all right?
Yeah. So I've had like a almost 2-week between video upload schedule, just because I just like
need a break.
No, I don't even know. Like I'm one of those people that I like doing projects, and so I've had like several projects going on at the exact same time, and it's just exhausting. And so like to sit down and edit a video and make a video, and I'm even still coming up with like scripts for videos and stuff, but I'm just like, I don't know. I don't want to say I'm lazy, but like, yeah.
Taking a lazy month.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I've come out. I did one video 2 weeks ago, and that was a relatively easy one. And I'm going to film another one now. I want to do like a top 5 rarest comics in my collection. I thought that'd be fun. And, like tag a bunch of people, but like rare.
Yeah,
rare.
Like the Rudolph book that you showed me.
Or this is, this is like I hope you don't like it because you'll never find it.
Dude, let me tell you, after you showed me that Rudolph book, I went looking for it. I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
The New Yorker.
Yeah, look at that date.
Wow.
That is
number 1?
No, this is Superman was two months old when this book came out. And this is the first appearance of the Addams Family anywhere.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And so now I have the set. I have every Golden Age Addams Family member. And this is it. This was it was a 7-day auction. It ended on Halloween night, and I was praying. I was like, I hope nobody bids this so far. And then I made the high bid, and thankfully everybody wanted to spend time with their family on Halloween, and so nobody got that.
That's awesome. Every time I speak to you, I learn something. So amazing. That is awesome.
So that was up on an eBay auction. That's
Yep. Somebody, and it was so funny. Someone put it up at an eBay auction, and then within 12 hours, they had updated the description of the item to say, "It has been brought to my attention that this is the first appearance of the Addams Family. Happy bidding." And so I was like, "Hell yeah!" And so I bid it up to like, I don't know, originally like 150, and it kept going up and up to like 300. And on Halloween night, I kept psyching myself out. I was like, someone's going to buy it and you're never going to see it again. Someone's going to buy it and you're never going to see it again. So I put it up to, I think my internal emotional limit, like my ceiling for my limit, I think I put it up to 800. I was like, if I get it for 800, I'll be stoked. If it's more than 800, then it was never meant to be. But I had it at the low at like 560. Like that was the current bid max, and it never went up past that. So I got it for with taxes, fees, and shipping and everything. It was like 600. But like, you have to understand, this book literally. I have videos. I have a video of me with Lawrence telling him like, I don't believe this book exists. Like, yeah, I don't think it's real anymore. It came out the year Superman did, and in the last forever, there's only been 3 sales recorded online, and mine's one of them.
That's crazy. 3 sales.
Congratulations!
And there are none. There are none on the census. Not one. Not a single one.
Are we gonna keep it that way?
I like if I had CGC, Hitler, and Mussolini in the room and 3 bullets, I'm shooting CGC 3 times. I sincerely do not care about grading companies. I don't care about, hey, some 19-year-old who was trained over a weekend gave my book a 4. It's a 4 now. I feel validated. I don't give a shit. Don't give a shit. And then you pay for the privilege of getting called ugly. It's like if Hot or Not had a subscription service so you could be called fat every other day by the internet. No, thank you.
And
I'm with you.
I'm only thinking, what would they value that book for? You know what I'm saying? Because there is a vintage cost to getting the book slab, and there's like a percentage as opposed to you pay $25, you pay $35 or something like that. So I'm curious, even though you said you got it for $6, right? Which you probably say, you know, normally I would say $400 to keep it at that max, right? For the insurance purposes. What would they call that book? Like, how would they, like, that's the other thing. How would they label its cost?
I don't know, but like, that would mean I've shot myself in the foot? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm bidding on that's the dark side of the CGC shit. Like, if I'm bidding up the cost of a book that I believe in, and then there's nothing on the census, and I submit it, my own bidding has dug my own grave.
Exactly,
because they're going to base it based on the sale of my data. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And if they do, that's actually not too bad, because if it's under $1,000, then they can't really label it a vintage book, but they can label it something else.
I wonder how many people though know what that book is. If you just put, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you tell someone this is the first appearance of the Addams Family, like, I can imagine if that was made more aware, that the book would be worth a lot more than what you got it for.
I think definitely.
Oh, dude, I believe in the books that, like, the weird books that Lawrence has seen. Like, I believe in them, and enough that, like, I hunt him down and I learn as much as I can about him. And then I find out that, like, CGC doesn't know what I'm talking about half the time. Like, and so what am I going to do? I'm going to educate CGC with my notes on my application to convince them to make it more valuable than it is, so that they can charge me more. Eat my ass. Yeah. It's not happening. I don't like it. It's gross.
So you know that Rudolph book that you showed me, literally like a couple of days later after we got off that live stream, I went to eBay and I started looking for the I forgot what it was, the particular thing which makes it I forgot what the plane was called.
The 4-prop plane.
So you don't know how many people who own that book told me they saying it's the first print. It's the first print. It's like, no, it's whatever. And they knew nothing about that, which is wild to me.
Yeah. You got to do a little bit of research in some of these weird indie books to find out, like, what are you even dealing with? And that's a weird one. And it's hard because people look up on Wikipedia or whatever, and they say, like, when did it first come out? And it was like 1938 or, you know, what have you. I think it's 39. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm trying. But, like, people say, like, okay, it's 39. What they don't realize is that the book was so popular when it came out. Within 2 months, they immediately went into a second printing. And then within the same year, they immediately did a third printing. So people look at the year and they say, oh, it's the year, it has to be a first printing. And it's like, no, dude, it was super popular. And it was only that weird edit that you can tell, that 3-prop plane, 4-prop plane. Yeah, the 3-prop plane is the first print.
So Fam has a question, and I just decided to just look it up. What do you think about the pre-Batman early Detective Comics?
Trash.
That they were the books for its time.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. And so was like a hoop and stick, but I also have a PlayStation now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, granted, the books are old and the books are super scarce, but I don't know, like, you know, the value of those books are in the eye of the beholder, right? They're not mainstream.
Yeah.
And the continuity, if you're a nerd who reads this stuff, like, if this chat isn't filled with just like bros in suspenders waiting for the next crypto coin to drop, and you guys actually read this shit, like, the continuity that DC fought so hard to make in the 80s with the Infinite Crisis defined that Batman as a completely separate character. So, like, people, if you want the first appearance of the Batman as a concept, yeah, Golden Age is the first appearance of Batman as a concept. But, like, the Bruce Wayne that you know today, if you go and pick up a comic book off your shelf, is not that Bruce Wayne. They're completely different characters. That dad from the Golden Age had a kid with Selena Kyle, and her name is the Huntress. And, like, that character has literally their entire own arc that is separate from what you have today.
Same thing with Superman, same thing with Wonder Woman, pretty much for all of them.
It all got rewritten. So, like, Is it the first appearance of the Batman you grew up with in the Tim Burton films? No, it's not. Different Batman. Someone said, I think the obscurity of that book narrows the market down to a very small niche. I think they're talking about that. What is it?
The Addams Family.
The Addams Family.
Yeah,
and it is. It's very rare.
But the one thing I'm going to say about that is that the Addams Family has stood the test of time. You know what I'm saying? They're still around today, so obviously they're doing something right. Like unlike some other characters.
So if you guys are into the Thanksgiving Day parade, there is a Wednesday float.
Brilliant.
Who looks like the actress? What's her name?
Jenna Ortega.
Yeah, it looks like Jenna Ortega. So that's how the Addams Family still. It was interesting because growing up as a kid, Addams Family was really on cable TV. It wasn't on like broadcast television. So where I lived, we didn't get cable till the 90s, and for us, it was the Munsters. I love the Munsters, right? But the Munsters was like, okay, this is the answer to the Addams Family kind of thing, and they were two very different.
Very different.
Yeah, they were very different, but they were both monster families and stuff like that. I just never understood the concept of how Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein had a vampire child, but I didn't care. You get what I'm saying? 13 Mockingjay Lane. It was so fun to watch too. So, but that's, to me, it was the Munsters. I love the Munsters. I didn't really get to watch the Addams Family.
Yeah, but you know what the Munsters doesn't have that came out last month? An Addams Family Polly Pocket.
There you go.
Where'd you find that?
Well, this was at Target. I mean, I found out that it existed, and look at all the like little details, little art all over it. Like, and they have they turn dead.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's on the back of the toy itself. And then like Wednesday's headless doll, and Pugsley, like obviously he's a munitions expert. And there's like so many little crazy details. Like the top of it is the house. They designed it into the pocket. You can't see it. Maybe you can, but right over her shoulder, that's actually a little tiny Polly Pocket thing.
Yeah,
that she comes with. The whole family's there, but yeah. So Polly Pocket has done 3 adult releases. They did a Friends one. That has like Central Perk. It's the coffee cup and it opens up to the apartments. And then they made an Addams Family one and a Harry Potter one. Yeah, but like Monsters, where's their shit? Nobody gives a shit about Monsters. It's all gone.
Well, after that Rob Zombie movie.
Oh my god! I
masturbated
that entire movie and it still didn't save it.
Well, I don't know what he was thinking about when he was doing it. They gave him $20 million, and the movie looked like it was made for $10.
Well, he pocketed it. He must have.
Or smoked it at least.
Yeah. God, that was terrible.
So Ricky, you looking for anything obscure right now, comic related?
Am I looking? No. The only thing that I'm and this is what I always talk about. Like, you're loath to talk about the rare. Because then, like, you put other people onto it. It is what it is.
Yeah,
that's the difficulty. But I'm not shopping and I'm not buying it. But I'll give 2 away right now, in case someone in your audience has $1,000 and believes in these books. On Mercari, someone has posted an Adventures of Rex the Wonder Dog #4 in a 1.8. That's the first appearance of Detective Chimp. You literally never see this book. One other copy of this book showed up this year and it went to eBay, and I told another YouTuber who was I don't want to blow him, I don't want to embarrass him, but like he did like weekly buying content. Like, I go to the store and look at my haul. That was pretty much his whole channel. And he wanted this book, and I found it on eBay and it was like $1,200, and I told him all about it, and he blew his budget for the year buying that one book, and it bankrupted his channel, and he doesn't make content anymore. It's literally been months since he's made a video, because like he used to save up like $25 a week. He didn't have a really big budget, and then he blew it because this is a book that he's been looking for decades. It is that rare, but it's for $1,080. Mercari, $142 in fees, puts it around like $1,200. But with Mercari, everybody's allowed to make an offer. So I bet I bet with the holidays going right now, you could probably get this book for like $800. But it's 1.8 first appearance of Detective Chimp, Golden Age, 1952.
And
That's
he's a character that they like to utilize in the DC universe every so often.
sure. And like I mean, if you're into the pets, he's great.
Yeah.
And then the only other one that I'm watching, I'm actually checking to see right now. Nope, still hasn't sold. For $2,000. For $2,000, you can get New England Comics Newsletter 1 through 4. What is impressive about New England Comics Newsletter? It is the first appearance of the Tick, and yes, it is it is a psychotically rare book. Like you know how San Diego Comic-Con Comics #2 is the first appearance of Hellboy.
Yeah,
Imagine
that's impossible. Yeah,
but imagine that exact same concept from a small New England comic convention back in 1986. It's the same concept. They were giving out these newsletters, and then inside, hi, I'm the Tick. I'm a brand new character. Come down to the convention and meet my creators. First appearance of the Tick. It's $2,000.
doesn't Tom own that? Comic Tom own that first appearance of Hellboy? I think he does.
Yeah, it's not exceedingly. No, he has the weird one. He's got the one that is like. It's
the big one, but it's just like little feet.
It's a picture of like a rando demon, and he has a belt that says Hellboy.
Hellboy.
Yeah, it was like a proof of concept. That's kind of like saying those old like Tales of Suspense books where it's like Meet the Doom is like, the tryout for Doom.
Yeah.
That would be like arguing that, well, that's really Dr. Doom. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not the first appearance of Hellboy as we know it.
And they call a lot of those books like the prototypes. It's like, no, they just rehashed words.
Right.
That's all they did. They weren't trying things out. They were making as much content as they possibly could.
And they had like 3 naming schemes. It would be like, where walks the Spidered Man?
Yeah.
And then you'd get, hi, I'm a teenager who wants to fuck a redhead. But yeah, so New England Comics Newsletter 1 through 4, $2,000. That's actually a really, I mean, how do you argue against a price for a book that I've never seen go for sale?
Where is that listed?
eBay.
Oh wow.
eBay, and it's called, in case somebody's got swinging sack and they want to go grab it, New England Comics Newsletter. First appearance of the Tick.
I wonder how many people know what that is. That's the thing.
Oh, I love the Tick.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't know what his first appearance was outside of like an actual comic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's like getting that publication of Superman, like the Reign of Superman piece. That would be just cool to have. Yeah, the proof of concept for Superman.
But that would be like fucking millions of dollars.
No, the first proof of concept for Superman. What is the name of the author? I don't want to screw this up. Book. It was a book that they got the concept for, and it was by Philip Wiley. PHILLIP WYLIE, like Doctor, like Mega Man.
Mm-hmm.
Philip Wiley wrote a book in the 1920s that was about a farm boy with extraordinary powers who goes into the world at the behest of his father to be a moral human being, and he literally goes and fights World War I. He learns all about himself. It's surprisingly sexy for the 1920s. A little boner inducing, but it's nice. Very emotional. That's what gets me out of bed. Like people watch porn and they get there, but like, no, I need to know that like she's invested. You know what I mean? So that gets me there. But it was a very good book. You can get it for a first print. I have no idea what a first print would look like, but you can get it on eBay like now in its millionth printing because it's public domain. For like $20, but it's called Gladiator, and it is what are their names? Who's this Superman guys? Siegel and Schuster. Yeah. They directly credited it was a really cool concept, and here we go. So if you want the real so where walks Doom? First appearance of Superman. Find a first print. I don't even know what that would look like.
So I'm looking at this cover of the New England Comic Newsletter, and it's very interesting because they did the Marvel 25th anniversary border with it, and then you have in the corner box, that's where introducing the Tick.
What year is the book? What year is the newsletter?
It's 86.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's July,
not that
August
old.
86. Nah,
Yeah, 86.
he's selling it for 2,000.
Oh, I think I found first
You can ask whatever he
edition.
wants.
If you want the first, here I'm sending you a link. If I don't know if you're doing videos or like stuff like this, but if you're looking for bloop, put that in the chat. If you're looking for the first real concept appearance of Superman, $680 US, first print 1930, Gladiator by Philip Wiley.
I don't see a link. I see it says Dietor.
Dietor.
That's what it says. Dietor.
This comment has failed to post to Mighty Comments and Delectables.
You got to give him a blue wrench. That's how that works, or at least put it in the chat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, put it in the private chat, and then he'll be able to put it in.
Yeah. Boop, boop, boop. There you go.
I dabble a little bit with StreamYard every so often.
But there's your, if you want your first Superman as a concept, you can't get bet cheaper than that. The only other copy available that I see is $2,000.
I remember this. I seen this image. This Gladiator image. Definitely seen it.
But it's a short read. I really enjoyed the book. I enjoyed it quite a bit, in fact. Like I said, pretty sexy, but like I will say, a spoiler for an almost 100-year-old book. Get over it. The end of the book, he's almost invincible. Like he feels exhaustion, but he doesn't really feel pain. He doesn't really get sick. And he's been fighting World War I almost single-handedly, winning these particular battles to like defend his friends in arms. He volunteered for service. And at the end of it, he realizes he's effectively a killing machine. He's like, what can I give this world other than death? So he asks God, he climbs a mountain and he's just praying. He's praying out loud and he prays to God and he says, like, how do I live knowing that I can kill anything? How do I live knowing that I can destroy everything? And he goes, okay, so I pretty much have two options. I can either go into hiding, leave this world is how he puts it, or I can have sex with everything that moves and spread my progeny. And rewrite the human race with what I am. So what should I do? God, do you have any opinions? And he gets struck by a whole ass bolt of lightning and dies. And so like I know a lot of books like have ambiguous endings. That's a pretty clear statement from the Allfather that like, no, you're gonna ruin the human race if you do this. So it was an interesting indictment of power for the last like 3 pages of a novel.
That's wild. I don't get Superman.
Wild.
I don't get Superman from that. But I understand the background of the son of a farmer, shit like that. But
yeah, well, moral dilemmas starting with a superpowered being from the Heartland. And then it was 1930, so 8 years prior to Superman. It was a pretty popular book at the time because we didn't have superheroes. So the idea of like a superpowered person is pretty cool.
I'm just looking at the inside of this Tick comic.
Yeah, that's a rare one. That's
Yeah.
If I had the money today, that would be my next purchase.
what is that on the TV behind you?
Oh, Twilight Town from Kingdom Hearts 2.
Oh, I just saw a train go by. I thought that was like, well, what the fuck is that? I thought it was like an actual like Christmas train.
That's like his window.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I realized it was the TV.
It's like, this is how it looks outside.
Yeah, I always put like a different lo-fi video game beat or something in the background. Are you playing anything right now? Do you play game at all?
I was mostly into sports games. Like, so let me say, I play vintage. I play vintage games, arcade games a lot. The new games, no, I don't have the time or the patience to do that shit. I used to play sports games, stuff like that, like Madden and NBA 2K, stuff like that. But even now, I don't have time. If I play something, I'll get on for like Donkey Kong Jr. or something like that, and I'll just go to town for like 20 minutes.
I don't even do that, man. I have a PlayStation 4. I was telling my wife just the other day, it's like, yeah, the price of PlayStation 5 came down. And she looks at me like, and when are you planning to use this? And I look at my girls and say, yo, don't you want that Five Nights at Freddy game? And they were like, Like, yeah, but we're okay with the one we got. It's like, no, this you need this version.
Dude,
And
that's all
it
my
didn't
kids do
work.
is play that shit. They don't fucking get off the stupid thing. So that's part of the reason is because that's all they do. So we're constantly trying to get them off of there.
Mm.
There was this great comic strip that I saw on Instagram of different generations, and one of the generations was that the parents were trying to get the kids. The earlier generations, parents were trying to get the kids into the house, and this generation, the parents are trying to get the kids out of the house.
It's true. It's true. When I was a kid, yeah, I played video games, but we
but we went to play video games.
I played my consoles at home too. But like, you take your bike, you go whatever. No one asked any questions. You came home 6 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
That was real. Like this shit now, I can't get them out of their room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, for me, it was like going to the village, hanging out in the village, going to Tower Records, going out to Washington Square Park, hanging out with friends, getting myself in trouble. All that stuff.
That's living in New York, in the city or whatever. Here
that's my life, man.
We can't.
That
do
was my
here
life,
where I
man.
live.
Yeah, we did that all the time, and then go play some handball for a little bit. Can't do that anymore. I don't have the body for it anymore. Trust me, I'm dealing with gout right now. So,
oh man,
sucks.
Guys, I'm exhausted. I'm ending the stream. All right, both of you guys, thank you for hopping on with me. All right, don't be strangers.
Definitely. Of course,
I appreciate you jumping on.
I might go to the American Dream Mall this weekend. Apparently, they're doing some little show, some little shake.
There's always like a card show there every weekend.
Yeah, there's like this comic book thing going on over there. So I might stop by one of these days, Friday or Saturday or something like that, just to hang out for a little bit, see what they got. But
all right, let me know.
They had wrestling going on last week. Kurt Angle, Mick Foley was there and everything. It was like, what?
They always have shit going on there.
Yeah. I was telling my friend who's a dealer, like, dude, you got to go to this place, man, because there's people and they're going to buy. Especially now. A mini con on Black Friday?
I'm not going anywhere near the mall on Black Friday. Forget that.
It's not going to be that great anymore. It's not going to be that nutty anymore. Those days are over. No, Amazon, baby. Everybody buys
the
Amazon.
Last time I even went to a fucking mall anymore. Everything I buy is online. I got to go to a store. Forget it.
I went to the mall the other day because my girls love Hot Topic. So
you could buy there online now too. Why even go to the store?
They want to see it. I don't buy shoes online. I gotta try them on. But anyway, guys.
All right. Good night, guys. That's it. I'm going to bed.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you guys again. I appreciate it.
Happy Thanksgiving for sure.
You too. Take care, everyone.